Three, two, one, and welcome back to Chasin the Racin.
And welcome back to the podcast powered by OMG, Bennetts and JCT Truck and Trailer Hire. And you know what? I feel like I'm going to give myself a pat on the back because that was quite fluent, that one. I think it felt a little bit smoother on that side of things. But here we have, to my right, sporting a very, very nice Norton top. I'm not sure if the merch is available yet, but we have Josh Corner. How we doing, son?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well.
Very good, very good. It's nice that you arrived here on time for a change. I'm loving it.
I'm not even going to acknowledge that.
Fantastic. I tell you what, Josh, let's spice things up. You can introduce our guest for this evening. For the evening? We're actually mid-afternoon. Are we yeah, mid-afternoon here. Go for it.
Mr. Rory Skinner. It's like
is that the best you could do? Is that the best?
You really set him in for something there.
Well, I was trying to think about this when I was doing a bit of research. Obviously, we've all known you for a while,
and you've come up with Rory Skinner.
Well, I was thinking how many, and I was trying to add up the various championships and stuff, but there's actually a lot more than I realised. But yeah, fresh back from MotoGP duties, heading back to BSB. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yeah, as you said, freshly back to the UK. A bit cold this time of year, but you know, we're back and we're enjoying it.
Just a tad. And I tell you what, right? Honestly, I cannot thank you enough because you are our second. Oh no. Correction. Our third guest to ever drive to us. So we had Duncan Vincent, we've got yourself, and Storm Stacey chucked his toys right out the pram. So I saw him down at tea time. So I drove up to you and Chrissy and everything like that. So that can be your apology, Storm. So I do apologise on that side of things. But seriously though, thank you so much for coming down today. Like, it's absolutely fantastic.
Not a problem. Always happy to be in the pod.
Good man. And I tell you what, you did turn up in a nice BMW there, mind.
I know, I have been treated. Yeah, signed my contract and getting the perks of the jobs here. So yeah, picked up a nice little 128 Ti the other week from BM and putting some miles on it, coming down here to see you guys.
Did you have a choice of any car?
I did, yeah.
But,
I'm talking not any car, like certain cars. Since I'm only 22, like the insurance reasons, like insurance options probably.
Aye.
Or engine options are limited because of my age. So yeah,
you're a professional race driver, car driver.
Yeah, that limits them even more.
I bet it does. I
can't see what the problem is.
Yeah.
But why could you get an M5?
No.
Every 22.
Yeah, they'll not be allowed it. You would have
M3 Touring probably would have been my choice. But yeah, I had certain limitations. I think it was 2 litre is probably what I could have up to, and I couldn't have a 135i, so I went for the 128 Ti, and it's pretty mint, to be fair. I'm enjoying it.
Oh, I love it. But like Josh was saying, you know, you've been freshly signed by the Cheshire Maldon task team now. Is that the right?
As far as I'm aware, that's pretty bang on.
Because I'm not being funny, right? I can say this, you can't, but I still remember. I keep wanting to say Tyco. And they haven't been Tyco for years. They have just been so cemented in my mind as Tyco with the roads and everything, that partnership that's growing. So hopefully, Cheshire Maldons continue that and we can try and spin the verse on that side of things. But looking through the history books, this is your second appearance on Chasin the Racin. And we had you on, I'm glad Grace wrote this down, episode 75. And that was at the end of October 2020.
Feels like a long time ago. It does, but at the same time, it doesn't.
It doesn't. Like obviously Grace, and you know, we all get together with a course and go, who can we get on? And you know, your news is just. Well, I'm trying to think when this comes out. Bit of time traveling, but you're like the freshest news. You know, stepping back into this championship, and it just feels like 5 minutes ago. Like since you've been on, I'm like, we've had Rory, and it's like he's actually done a shit ton since last we had you on. But the one thing I'm trying to remember is. Chrissy got you on the show and you're in the trailer, and like you were saying before we came on, I think the trailer hadn't long.
I think it was probably one of the first few pods since it had actually been fully kitted out. And
well, you would have just won the championship then, wouldn't you? Yeah. British Super Sport.
Yes,
but
correct.
Did you, I'm trying to think when we did it. So you won the championship.
I won the championship at Donington, and then we did it at Brands at the last round.
And how many rounds did you win it back? How many rounds did you
win? Round to spare, 2 races to go.
That was it.
Because Brands was obviously 2 races in the weekend.
Yeah.
But it was a shortened championship, I think, that year, was it?
Ah, yes, because of COVID,
seven rounds, I think. So she won it in 6 rounds. So I was pretty happy with that one.
6 rounds, going through your results, did you win every race to do that then?
Bar 2.
Which 2 were that then?
Oldham Park race 2. I think I finished second to Brad by Not that it hurt or anything. Second to Brad by like 300ths of a second, I think.
Brad Ray?
Brad Jones.
Brad Jones even.
And then Donington race 1, it was like horrific conditions, and I think half the field actually went down, and I had a 7-second lead by the end of lap 1. I lost it at the Old Hairpin in the wet. Maybe should have known by having a 7-second lead by the end of lap 1. I was a bit on the limit, but hey, I wanted to win the championship in style. So
I was having a look at this earlier on. So you had 10 wins then, 10 wins and 11 podiums in that season.
12 races.
Yeah,
that's Jack. That's
one
Jack
DNF,
Kennedy.
1 second, and yeah, Jesus Christ, yeah.
That's proper Jack Kennedy territory. I'm only saying that because that's his best mate.
I was filling his seat, so I had to get my finger out with that one. Make sure I was doing Jack proud, because Jack had left the year before to go to Superbikes with Tag, I think.
That's right, yeah, he went to Superbike, didn't he?
Shit, aye.
Yeah.
Oh my! Sorry, I'm trying to remember. Was Brad Jones? He had the crash at Brands.
That was the year after when we both went to Superbikes.
How is Brad doing?
Brad's good. He's back cycling a lot, and he's doing a lot of motocross.
Yeah,
with
racing
Scott.
motocross stuff. I don't think he's bothered about going road racing again as such, but he's he's living a normal life as such. Yeah, like very yeah.
I think he's on Scott Redden's cycling team now, is he not?
He was, dude. I don't know if they're running that team again anymore. I was reading something the other day about that not going ahead again. But yeah, he was certainly involved with, like, I think he's good friends with Scott, isn't he? Yeah. He does a lot of stuff with them. So yeah, he's doing really well. Like, I keep in touch with his dad quite a bit. I know he's a listener of the show. Who,
well, you would have been working with Tim, would you not? When you
I worked with Tim,
mechanic at Macadam.
Firstly in 18, a little bit in 19, and then 22. Yeah, I worked with Tim in 22. Yeah, he's a great guy. Yeah,
because Brad, we'd definitely like to get Brad up. Because where's Brad based? In the country.
Oh,
you know what's mad? Everyone forgets where they're based because we're all traveling circus, and everyone goes, "Where do you actually live?" Because we had Billy Bolt on not too long ago. It was like Andorra. Everyone like McPhee's Andorra. Everyone's. When are you moving to Andorra?
Not even thought about it.
This might be the last time we get Rory Skinner on the show.
I'll be driving up from Andorra, I'll tell you that.
I bet you're not. I bet he's trying to get the miles up on his new motor, but it's that's a different subject for a different time. But what? I know we're talking about the Brad Jones, but what injuries did he sustain again?
I couldn't tell you, Dom. I know
he was close.
Yeah, I think he broke virtually every bone in his body, but he had quite a serious head injury. Really, was the
main side of things. But sorry, I feel like we're going to end up talking about we interview Brad Jones without him being here. But it's no, we're definitely going to have to get him on the show. So if you are listening, please drop Grace a message, and we'll definitely get that over the line. But we're here to talk about Rory Skinner, and at that point, you've won the British Championship, you've done the Red Bull Rookies. You know that episode. Like I say, if you want to go back and watch it, is episode 75, and that led us, after you won that championship, you signed for FS3 at that point.
Correct, 2-year deal, yeah, in Superbikes.
Was it 2 years?
2-year deal, yeah, to go to British Superbikes with FS3. I mean, at the end of 2020, I had options to go to World Supersport, and a lot of people thought that'd be the correct way to go, and for me it was as well. But when you get the option to go there, but then when it's costing you best part of €200,000 for a season, you're like, I think I'll probably just stick to going to BSB.
Was that a competitive ride at 200
Yeah, that was the championship winning team. They got 200,000.
Wow.
But I mean, yeah,
that's the difference, isn't it?
I come from a normal family up at home in Scotland. It's we don't exactly have £200,000 just kicking about to chuck it bike racing.
I was about to say your dad's got a bike shop. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, is his dad still got the bike shop going?
Yeah, so dad's in there on his own actually at the minute. He's manning the shop. He runs the showroom, the parts department, the workshop, everything. So dad's kind of got his hands full. I handed in my notice once I went for my second year of FS3. But yeah, through 2019, 2020, 21, I worked full time at Skinner Motorcycles alongside racing. How
did Christmas feel right after that? You've handed your notice into your dad. You know what I mean? I feel like you're quitting the family rather than quitting a job.
In all fairness, he was actually quite happy for me because we've worked our whole lives to get to the point where I could
where you could do that,
where I could make racing my full time job. And when you're at school and your teacher asks you when you're a kid, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I was like, well, I'll be a motorbike racer. I'm like, no, but what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm like, well, motorbike racer.
Yeah.
And I got to that point where my job could be a motorbike racer. My dad saw I was putting in so much time and dedication to it that it kind of was the best time to go. And don't get me wrong, I still go and help him occasionally when he needs a hand and he asks for a hand. I'll go in and do a service or two for him. But yeah, my main focus now is my racing, as it should be.
Oh my god! No, I just, I just want. Was it a proper written like I'm leaving the company and I'm just picturing?
Nah, it wasn't quite that bad. It was just like a mutual agreement. I think you could probably say.
I'm going to stop coming in on Monday morning at 9 o'clock.
That's exactly.
Next Monday, Dad, it's not happening. So.
But so, was that your stepping? So, how close of a decision was that for you? You know, that 200 grand. You know, you didn't have the infrastructure. Like at that point when that.
It was nice to get the offer, but realistically, it just was never going to happen. I mean, I've got good sponsors around me, good personal sponsors that have stuck by me for years, but £200,000 is a lot. 200,000 euros is a lot of money. Like,
it's a shit
I'll buy a house near enough anywhere, and a nice house at that.
Yeah, and like as an investment,
1 year in racing.
Yeah, and as an investment, would you get that back? Would you have got a world superbike ride earning money the next year?
And
like, it's such a gamble.
The
isn't
way
it?
I look at it is, if you go and pay a team 200,000 euros, you know what the paddock's like. The paddock's just mad on gossip. So they find out, other teams find out you've just spent 200,000 euros. They're going to be like, oh, wow, he's clearly got a bit of money behind him.
Come and ride for me.
Yeah, you can ride for us next year. We'll do you a deal at 150. And it's like, you're shooting yourself in the foot, really, because once you start talking about that kind of money, everybody knows that you're going to be having that money to throw at things. So I'd rather do it off my own merit and like work hard to get where I want to be and be given a ride through like my talent and my, you know, from what I've done, rather than just being somebody to chuck money at it. Not that we're in a place that we could chuck money at it, but you know, that's the way I can look at it.
But the sport has gone down that route.
Unfortunately, it has, yeah.
You haven't gone down that route, which is actually
I've not gone down that route because I didn't want to.
You can't.
Yeah, I can't. We're just not in a position where we could. It would have been nice if we had that kind of money to throw at things, and because. Yeah, it definitely helps, isn't it? If you've got a bit of money behind you, then it helps with your racing. It's not a cheap hobby.
No, of course, and it does. Sorry, Dom. Karen.
No, go.
It does cost money, obviously, but I think motorcycling's gone much more down closer to the route of car racing, really, where it was always kind of accepted that you paid for that and you got what you paid for, sort of thing. But there's got to become and I agree with that to a certain extent, but at some point there's got to be an element of that. There's like, this is a career and there's got to be enough sort of commercial backing for this to be relevant to do.
Yeah, I mean, I see it from both sides. Obviously, it's a tougher time for sponsors to be involved. You don't have the big like tobacco money that there was in the 90s and things like that. So teams aren't quite getting the same money coming in from the sponsors, and
the costs are going for everything's going up. Yeah,
the organisers can't give like, you know, start money to teams and things like that because the track hire is going up in price, and you know, it's like everything. It's a massive thing that's just coming into one, and it just affects everybody from one end to the other. And yeah, you know, it costs money to employ people to work in the team. It costs money to build the bike. It costs money to maintain the bike. And at the end of the day, if you don't have the sponsors paying for it, then you got to pay your bills at some point. Yeah. You got to have somebody paying the bills because they don't go away.
So, you know, going like into the world supersport, like paddock even, did you have any options that weren't competitive in worlds?
Yeah,
No, sorry. As competitive, you know what I mean? If you get, you know, if you've got the championship winning bike, obviously that's the top of the triangle.
There were still rides there, but even then, for a lower tier team in that championship, you're still getting offers for like the best part of 100,000 euros. Like the offer that I got for riding from one of the teams was like, you know, it was still good, like in terms of what you get for it, but the money was just unachievable, unrealistic for us to kind of put together. And yeah, when you look at it and you're like, oh, I'll pay 100,000 to run in a team that's going to be mid-pack, or I'll double that and pay for a team that you can fight for the championship with, then
exactly.
You wouldn't really entertain the lower option. You'd kind of put yourself where you feel like you're worth. But again, it came down to money and we couldn't do it. So
just in theory, you know, we're talking the past here, and we can't go backwards. You never can. But if you got offered, say, a team that finished, spitting numbers, 15, 16th in the championship, you know what I mean? Like finishing just outside the top 15. And they came up to you and said, there's a free ride for you. Would you have taken it at that point?
I'd have considered it. Obviously, there's a lot of variables, but my mindset is I always wanted to go somewhere where I feel valued and feel wanted. And I had that. Obviously, I went to FS3 after winning British Supersport, and I had such a good feeling with that team. Like just even going in, first meeting with them in the workshops, and it was great, and it just kind of clicked straight away. It was very similar vibe to. I mean, Josh will know from the Appleyard lot. They're just a big family.
Yeah, big family team, isn't it?
FS3 to me was the same. So that kind of drawn me to that, and I knew I could be competitive. The bike was capable of running towards the front. So for me, that was like, I'd rather go somewhere where I've got something that I can work with and be capable with. Because if you go you tell me who was 15th in the World Supersport Championship last year. Yeah. You can't. Exactly. You tell me who was top 5 in BSB last year. You could do that.
Yeah.
So it's all about being.
That's the question, isn't it?
There's so many more things to weigh up than what first meets the eye. Like you look into it and you got to kind of go through it all and look at what's what.
If you might have asked that question 10 years ago, because what you're basically saying is it worth taking less money to be in World Supersport over BSB? If you'd asked that question 10 or a bit longer years ago, when like Johnny Ray and those guys went, well, it was longer than 10 years ago, but you know what I mean? Yeah, there was, Sam Lowe's and all of those guys that were going there then. You would argue that, maybe it might have been worth doing if you were trying to take your career in that direction. Whereas I just think now that's not, it isn't happening. And actually putting yourself on a British Superbike and winning races and winning championships probably puts you more in the shop window for a World Superbike team than a World Supersport, to be honest. And I think there's so many people obviously paying in that paddock, which I get, it is what it is. We could talk all day about that, but
it's like, let's talk about another Scotsman, the Mackenzie. You know what I mean? Now, I'm terrible for this. It's Taz, isn't it? Yeah. Taz, yeah. So, he won the British title with the McCams team, and then he stepped into a team. I'm just going to say it. It wasn't a race winning team. And he stepped into World Supersport, and from a sports fan's point of view, I thought it was brilliant. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. I personally think he made the right move. But then, and when he got that win, oh my God,
unbelievable,
mate! The world fell apart, and he just went. I think the whole of United Kingdom just stood up and just went, outstanding. But do you think that was the right thing to do for Taz?
I think for Taz, it was just the right time for him to take that step and at least give that option a go. He's won in British Superbikes. He's proved he was competitive over 4 or 5 seasons. So for him, when the opportunity comes up, and I think for him there were stepping stones through, hence why he's now in a Superbike with them, it was the right thing to do. Maybe the bike wasn't quite the most competitive thing, but he rode the wheels off it, and he got the very best he could get out of it, and everybody on the outside knew that, and everybody in the paddock. The people who know.
Yeah, and you're stepping in there with that credibility as well. That's not to say if you'd stepped in there as the British Supersport champion, you wouldn't have had that credibility, but Taz probably went there in a different position, really, like multiple British champion Supersport, and had been pretty. He'd done the business in Superbike, hadn't he? And he obviously knew it was part of a wider sort of opportunity as well. So it's a little different, isn't it? And I ultimately think it's worked out all right. It's worked out all right for him, but you don't know what's not available as well. So people just assume that you're making a decision to go there, but if something's not, you know yourself, like, you're obviously coming back from Moto2 and into BSB, and I'm assuming a lot of people probably just think that that's down to choice, but there's other factors, isn't there, that maybe there's not an opportunity there for you, or there's lots of America, or there was lots of rumours flying around that you'd go to America, or you're going to go to CV or whatever, but it's not as cut and dry as people think. You just want to go back to BSB, so that's what you're going to do. There's other things, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it wasn't just rumours. Like, there was options to go here, there and everywhere. Like, from going in Moto2, it's such a well-respected championship. Even the guys I was racing with, they're still some of the fastest people in the world. At the end of the day, I was finishing, say, 19th, 20th, 21st, and you're 20th the best in the world on that day, on those bikes, on that track. Like, you go to any club racing and race these bikes, or like, not club racing, like BSB, you could go to CV, and I mean, I was battling with Senna Aegis, who's just won the CV title, the European Moto2 Championship. And he's been like taunted as the next big thing, and I was battling with him every race he came and done a replacement ride with, and it's like, he rides the same bike in European Championship as what he does in Moto2.
It wasn't like a step in.
He's like, everybody's saying he's the next big thing, and I'm in my first year trying to learn the bike and the track and everything, and I'm battling with him, so it's like,
yeah, exactly.
I feel like I did too bad a job, but the options there was options to go to European Championship in Moto2, there was options to go like basically here, there and everywhere, World Supersport again and stuff like that, but again, it came down to what we were saying earlier, like all the little things that can you be competitive on that bike and be noticed, or is there going to be a stepping stone on the other side of that? And that's what ultimately led to my decision. So,
and what at this excuse me, sorry, frog in my throat there, but it's had you ridden a Superbike up to that point
before I signed for FS3?
Yeah,
nah, never. The biggest bike I ridden was a 600. So
talk me through your first experience on that Kawasaki. Your first test on it.
Well, I got a practice bike from FS3, and I had to go to Knockhill for a BBC, I think it was BBC Scotland film day, and they were like, "Oh, we just want you to do a few laps around the track." And I think this was like 6th or 7th of December. Like, you can imagine Knockhill that time of year. And it was a dry day. Like it was a dry day, but I think it was about 4 degrees.
Yeah,
but it had been
-4.
raining the day before, so it was like soaking wet, like in places, and like we only had slicks with a bike, so I was just like, oh great. So my first experience of riding a big bike was round Knockhill in patch conditions at about 4 degrees on slicks for BBC Scotland, and it was cool. Like I was loving it because it was the first time I had a bit of power where you could actually play with it, spinning and stuff like that. And even in the first 3-4 laps, I was like, "What This is a bit of fun. I'm liking this." And then went out to Spain with Dad and then started riding the Stalker. Did like 4,000 kilometers in a winter on the Stalker. Like I think it was like 3.5 weeks we did. Yeah, 3,500 kilometers. Like just doing track days. I think we did like Cartagena, Almeria, Andalusia, Valencia, Jerez, just track after track, and then went back home again.
So, how conscious are you as a racer, like to flip? Were you? So I'm wording this totally wrong, but. Were you conscious that you had to change your style, or did you change your style?
See, this is the thing. When I jumped on a superbike, everybody was saying I was riding it wrong because I was like carrying so much corner speed, like, especially at Knockhill when I had my round 2, I think it was, of 2021, and I was like second row of the grid, battling at the front, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's riding it like a 600. He can't make that work." And yeah, I did have to adapt my style a little bit, but at the end of the day, I kind of did make it work in a way.
But I think the whole thing's changed, hasn't it? There's been a lot of successful 600 riders coming up and I actually, funny enough, on YouTube the other day, just stumbled across a World Superbike race from 2003 when Hodgson won it was the first round at Valencia. And honestly, you'd look at them and the style, you think, I can't believe how much it's changed. You don't realise it has, but they're so set up right. There's no... Whereas now you look at yourself and Brad and Taz and the heads on the floor, like the styles changed and evolved so much for whatever reason. But I don't know if it's that you guys growing up with low capacity bikes and it going through that way, or the bikes have changed and are capable, tyres, whatever. I don't know. But
if you look at it, I feel like myself, Taryn, Brad and Kyle kind of changed the way superbikes were being ridden
in a big
21.
way, yeah.
And if you look at every one of us, we all were in Red Bull rookies. We all did a bit of Spanish CEV. We all spent a lot of time on smaller bikes. Kyle, Taz, myself all rode Moto2 bikes. Oh, so did Brad. So there you go. Like we all kind of came through like
the same sort of thing.
Similar style of like steps up to that part.
Yeah.
So I think you can make it work. It's about making it work in the correct way and figuring out how to do it. So yeah, but in 2021 everybody was like, "Oh, you got to ride it like this, you got to ride it like that," and I was figuring it out myself, and I was like, well,
I don't have to. This is working.
I'm feeling like this is working. There's certain aspects I've got to change of it, and I was open to that. And then by the time we came into 22, I'd like spent the off season like just analysing everything in my head. Like I got to the end of 21, and because it was a compact season again because of COVID, it was like I got to the end of the year, my head was just about to fall off because I'd taken in so much information that I was like mentally overloaded. That like you could tell me something, it would just be like in one ear and out the other because there was like no more storage in my brain, if you like. So yeah, you get to the end of the year and you can finally start thinking about it. And
if you don't mind me asking, what did you refine? I'm just curious now.
Just cleaning up stuff. Like sometimes I was being a bit ragged. I was running into corners a bit hot, trying to make up too much time on the brakes, and then like just messing up my exits. And it was just like fine tuning each little aspect of my riding to make it a little bit better. I had a year in a superbike, I understood where my fitness needed to be a bit better, what I needed to work on, and it was like there's so many little things, and it's like all the little 1% things that add up to being half a second a lap consistently the next year, which helps.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to, like, for layman's terms element, well, for me really, would you say from a super sport rider, did you have to double your fitness, triple it?
Nah, it's still
tiny bit.
It's still riding a bike. I'd say I had to again refine more of my riding and be using different parts of my body in better ways on the bike. The superbike requires a little to be a bit more physical, but at the same time you've still got to be smooth with it and respect it.
Yeah,
so because it can get out of hand so much quicker. I just had to see, the thing is lockdown worked really well for me in 2020 because living in Scotland, there's so many big hills about me, so your whole you can only go 5 miles from your house. Well,
that's grand.
I've got 3 mountain bike spots within that time, so it's
you're banging on your Instagram, you're banging your mountain bike.
I just live on my mountain bike, so it was just a case of just cycle out the house and I just spend my one day of exercising all day exercising. So I came into the season and I'd been flat out doing all the runs that we do on the mountain bike, and I'd been treating it as if it was a race, working out all my braking markers, my turning points, where I'm aiming for in the track, where I'm going to pre-hop, where I'm going to pump, and I went into the season, my head was already up to the race speed in 2020 because in lockdown I'd spent the whole time cycling. And just, I went into the season. My fitness was probably as good as it ever been.
Feeling good and feeling ready, yeah.
And my head was already up to speed because I'd spent the whole time trying to overanalyze mountain biking like I would on a race bike. So, yeah, I think when it came to superbikes, I kind of just taken the same approach, and you kept cycling, kept all that, and then I actually ended up training with Loughborough University as well, which then taken things to the next level.
Yeah.
Do you think that 2020 was your break?
I think it was probably the time that a lot of people taking me a bit more seriously in the UK. In 2019, I don't feel like I rode any better in 2020 as I did in 2019.
Yeah.
But in 2019, I was saying to Dom at one point that me and my dad run the Supersport bike. We had 19 out of the workshop at home. We'd had no money. It was basically what you'd call
Dad and lad race.
I remember a Supersport Evo bike, but it wasn't even a Supersport Evo bike. It was a stock 600 with a bit of head work done, and that was it. I had a power commander and it had the key in it. So we want to change the engine brake, and we turned the tick over up or turned the tick over down. It was that kind of racing. We didn't have the option to do anything because we couldn't afford to put Motec in it. We didn't have the know-how to run the Motec if we'd got it anyway. We were just doing it ourselves. We run 3 sets of tyres a weekend.
Yeah.
New set for qualifying, new set for each race, and then reuse in the following weekend. So it was so tight, and I'd say it's probably, looking back at it now, it's character building, because going into 2020,
I remember seeing you in that year and you'd out the small awning on your van and stuff. I remember that.
Yeah, it was proper dad and lad racing, if you like. And then I went into 2020 and I was so motivated because I had all the tools and I had all the people in the team and in the garage to do the job. So I was like, well, I've got everything now. I may as well make the most of it.
It showed you. Sorry.
No, go. No, you're flowing. Keep going.
It was the reason I asked the question is when you look back at, and obviously we're all aware of what you've done and stuff. But it wasn't until I started looking at this in black and white, and you look at. I remember seeing you at Mallory Park for the race of the year.
2014
on a.
He don't miss a beat, does he? He remembers everything's catalogued in there.
On Ryan's KTM.
Yep.
And at that point, you just won Super Teens, and everyone was like, "This is the next a little bit like what Kyle was when we were doing Monty Fives and stuff, and Kyle just sort of was above everybody else, and he was going to go, and then you went and did Red Bull Rookies, and then you were doing the Racing Step stuff, and I'm really interested on the Racing Steps Foundation stuff. But yeah, I was looking through here. You've actually been on the world stage more times than people probably realised, and then for whatever reason, it didn't quite happen, did it? And then 2020 just feels like that it was the break. But you won the British Talent Cup, and then we were all like, "Aye, well, you go to GPs now," and then that just didn't happen.
I've got the same. So don't worry.
It just didn't happen, did it? And then you're back doing something with your dad again, and then it was good that I think Robin, obviously I know Robin a bit, and he obviously really liked you and stuff, and I don't know if he's obviously done Grand Prix years ago and stuff, and was obviously watching you for a long time and stuff like that, so I think you probably fitted in really well there with his kind of mindset and stuff. But
you ever felt pressure, sitting here now opposite you, just when you listen to that list, it's just like you've been on the world stage, you're there, and then you've had moments of I would never ever say setbacks, like run-ups to go again. And does pressure get to you at all?
I feel the pressure. Whether it gets to me, it's hard to say.
I like that. I like that. That's a good answer.
I'm aware of it. It's hard to say whether it affects me in a big way, if you know what I mean. It's when 2020, I knew that. Well, in my head, I had to win a championship at Donington. I had Bratton's, but I'd had that good a season that I was like...
You wanted to win it then?
I wanted to win it at Donington. I think I'd been second in one race. I hadn't won only one race by the time we got to Donington, and I was second by half a tenth. So I was like, Donington, I need to do this job. For myself, if I flake at Donington, then clearly the pressure's got to me. That was in my head. So I went in Donington, and I was just like, right... I'm on a mission here. I'm going to try and win it. And then Hens came off a 7-second lead at Old Hairpin on lap 1 or lap 2. And it was like, oops. Okay, well, that's that then. And then I went in the next day and won the next race and won the title. So it was like, I was so set. I always take it, me and my dad always said it, and my mum as well. I take my racing race by race, and I never try and think too much further ahead than that, because you can only do the job you can do on that weekend. You can't.
Don't worry about next week. It hasn't happened yet. Yeah,
it's out of your control, isn't it? So if I do the best job I can do that weekend, then that's all I can do. And from there, we'll go with it and reset and go into the next weekend and see what happens there. I never expected to win as many races as I did in 2020 on a super sport bike, and I still can't believe I kind of did it now. Looking back at it, I can't believe I had the season that I did. But we just went weekend by weekend. It was like, right, okay, we had a good weekend there. Mega, did the double. next weekend, let's just start again. It's going to be a different track. We hadn't been able to test the R6 at all, and it was just like, right, we'll start again, we'll start fresh, see where we end up.
And then that pressure, like, so you stepped in to FS3, Super Sport champion. What was the pressure level like? I feel like we should like label the pressure, you know what I mean? Like 1 to 10 kind of thing. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, no, not skill. Like, you know, like how you, Rory Skinner, perceive where motorcycling is, if you know what I mean. So like Red Bull rookies, was the pressure and the ambition high? Like, was the pressure higher in that?
It changes year by year.
Of course, naturally.
My first year, there was no pressure in Red Bull rookies. I had to do what I could do, and then if I got invited back again, then great.
What was the experience like? Because they're not. I think they still do the selection process for Red Bull. What was that experience like?
See, that was nerve-wracking because I just turned 13, I think a week before I went out. I just won the Super Team title again the week before I went out. And it was like, you went there and you're basically going with all the best kids near enough from every different country in the world, and you're there. And in all honesty, you're riding bikes that are pretty shit. Yeah. Like, the
pre-GP 125s, aren't they?
They give you like the worst bikes ever to see who can adapt and actually get on with it. Like the tyres are like 4 years old. They've been through about 1 million heat cycles.
Yeah. I wish I was the mechanic that set those bikes up. Yeah, they're not quite rough enough, let's say.
Well, I always remember this. We were in the briefing and Peter Clifford's there and he's like, right, well, we've got these bikes and you need to change at 13,000 RPM. It's a 2-stroke. This is where the power comes and like blah, 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 blah. You need to change at 13,000 RPM. Don't over rev it. And you know, this is that. And anyway, I went out, I got down to start finish straight, and like just coming out of the pits, and my dash just went up to about 10,000, and then just like it stopped working. I just started bouncing off the red line at 16,000, and it was like, well, I don't know what RPM I'm at now. I rode 2-strokes all my life and had a bit of a mechanical understanding, so I could feel where the power was coming in and out of it, but. Like,
there's Rory Skinner with the orange glowing pipes coming down the straight.
I've never seen somebody back in a 2-stroke before, but I've seen some people backing in 2-strokes on the back shifts. It was the back wheel was jumping off the ground and everything on the way into the corner. It was like bam, bam, bam. So I was surprised the piston stayed in the engine.
That is class.
I was just like, whoa. Like me and Dad were watching it in some of the other sessions. We were like, that's a bit rough. That's a bit rough. I was going to get a crank by the end of today.
Because the remit for that was, I remember the first ever one, and there was an advert on Eurosport. That was the first ever selection, and the remit was you had to be this age and think
that was it.
You had to give your results, you had to give your parents size and weight and everything. Like it was a big ordeal to do it, but it was literally just the concept was get anybody from anywhere essentially
and just see what we could do with them.
See if they're good. You did you went there as Aprilia Super Teen champion, youngest ever, I didn't know this till I did a bit of research, youngest ever Aprilia Super Teen race winner, which will probably stand forever now. Because
by the way, he's just watched episode 75, you know, all this homework he's bragging about. All he's done is
read my website.
It's on your website. It's from your website. It was excellent. I did about 5 minutes of Googling and then had everything. But I didn't realise you were the youngest ever Super Teen winner. Youngest ever for the championship, or was it just a race win?
I don't know. I think it was between me and Fraser Rogers for being the youngest ever, because Fraser was young as well at the same time.
But that'll never change now, really, because the format of Super Teens is not the same anymore. It's not Aprilia anymore, is it? It's the new 400 thing, which is great. But
if I really wanted to hold on to the title, I could just add in youngest ever Aprilia Super Teen.
Yeah,
that's
like,
exactly. Yeah,
Aprilia's and Super Teen. So
I think you'll hang on to that forever now. But yeah, and then. What was the Spanish championship like? Because it's something that we've always seen, but there's not loads of coverage of it. So you don't get a chance to really see it. No,
so like I did Spanish CV, which was then I think when I went into it rebranded the Junior World Championship.
Yeah.
And I did that as soon as I turned 14. So I think I got the last 3 rounds of that in 2015.
Right. Okay.
So I didn't do the full championship in 15. I did the last 3 rounds.
Right. Okay.
And that was with the likes of, I think when I went into it, I finished 5th at Valencia at the end of the year, and the people ahead of me was Balega, Canet, Mir, Arenas, and I think Dalla Porta had fell off at the last corner. It was something like that in that form. And
basically the Grand Prix
and stuff like that. So Junior World Championship, looking back at it now, I was racing with guys who have now gone on to be world champions. classed as some of the best in the world. So it's like you're looking at it, and it was a good apprenticeship, I suppose you could say. But a lot of people don't realise how high that championship level is in that series. A lot of the manufacturers, like now KTM and Honda, will develop their Moto3 parts in that championship because the rules in Grand Prix are so strict. So I remember sitting at Catalunya in 2017 and sitting in the garage, and Dennis Foggia rolls by in his VR46 Moto3 bike, and like, geez, that's a funky looking swing arm. And then 2 weekends later, you see it. Oh, KTM and GPs. Oh, KTM have got this new swing arm for the riders to try. I'm like, all right, okay, that'll be what he was using in Catalunya then. So,
and did you think at that point, what did you think was coming next? Like, where do you think you were gonna? Because you were performing in that championship, you weren't at the back, right? You were mixing it with the lads that went off to do Grand Prix.
Yeah, I led numerous laps. I never quite got on the podium, but finished in the top 5 a good few times. And
yeah.
I'd say I was a solid top 10 rider, and we were in a privateer team. It was Mark Keane at KRP, and it was on the Racing Steps Foundation bike, and we were on privateer bikes. We didn't have the latest stuff. We weren't getting development parts, and realistically, looking back at it now, we're just Mark was running it himself. He's a very smart man. He's very good at that kind of thing, but we didn't have the level of support as what the top teams the top teams had, like Estrella Galicia and the VR46, Aspar, all these teams.
It's just a secondary Grand Prix paddock, isn't
basically,
it? There,
I remember my first year, Balega was on pole at Valencia and Jerez with faster lap. He would have been on pole at Grand Prix.
Yeah,
I was like, I'm 14 years old coming into this title, and I've got to be a Grand Prix pace. Yeah, it's like, what's going on here? Like, it was just crazy.
So where was that? This number, this imaginary number. So Red Bull rookies. You've gone from like, if I get selected, I get selected, and it's stepped up from there.
Yep.
Where was the pressure number at this point?
I don't know. It's the pressure in the first year wasn't really a thing, because I said, I just had to go out and do my own thing. And then I went into 2016, and I was one of the fastest at the test.
Yep.
So then again, it's not pressure. It was more expectation for myself. Like I suppose you could class expectation and pressure.
Yeah, label it up. Yeah, I'll tell you what, let's change it from pressure to expectations of yourself.
Expectation is probably a better one to go for if you wanted to label it. My expectation in 2016 in Red Bull Rookies was to be a championship contender. I broke my wrist at CEV whilst running in third at the first round of Valencia. Foggia ran over it when I high-sided, so there you go. I broke my wrist and I missed the first round, and I went back into it, and I think I was on the podium at Chasin, and we had a good few rounds, and it was a solid championship. I think I can't remember exactly.
Finished 6th in that championship.
There you go. Finished 6th in the championship, and I think if you look at the names, it was Ayumu Sasaki, Kaito Toba, Ralph Fernandez, Alex View.
No mugs.
Yeah. Fast, the current Grand Prix paddock, basically.
Fast boys. And it's like, you look at it, I'm looking at it now, and it's like, I did a decent enough job there, considering I missed 50 points at the start of the season.
Yeah.
So, the expectation in 2016 was to be at the front, and obviously when I broke my wrist at the start of the year, I could only do what I could do for the rest of the series and do the best job I could. Finishing 6th was happy. I got invited back for a third year. Finishing 6th, I was like, right, well, I know where I want to be.
Do the business.
Yeah. Went into tests were good. I won the first race at Jerez, so I was like, right, I'm on form for what I want to do. Race 2, I had a fairly big crash, got caught up with another rider, and then I had a tough season. I'd say that was probably one of the times where the pressure got to me. Obviously, I was like 15 turning 16. I was growing up as a person. I was going through stages that 15 and 16-year-old boys go through. And there was a lot going on. It was like a lot of my life was changing, and I knew that was my last year in CEV, and I knew that was going to be in Red Bull Rookies, and I knew that was going to be my last year in CEV because Racing Steps was tying up.
Yeah.
So in my head, I was like, my next step's Grand Prix. I've got to prove myself.
Yeah.
And this is at 15-year-old, and you're saying to yourself, this is me shot.
Yes.
That's a lot to realise at 15.
But then, so this is, I missed so many parts of this because there was so much going on. The end of 2016, I had a pretty solid season. Obviously, Red Bull Rookies, I was 6th, and in CV, I was up there with them on a
regular basis.
I think looking back at it now, it's fair to say on a below par bike. Like I was riding the wheels off what I had to be up there, and I was leading races and feeling like I was doing a decent enough job. And Alberto Puig approached me. This was just before the British talent team was announced with John McPhee in 2017 in Grand Prix, and he was like, I'd really like to have you on board with us. I'd really like you to be part of the British talent team next year, and I've got a bike, I've got the funding, I've got everything to run a 2-bike team, you and McPhee and GP. I was like,
all right, okay.
Scotland are about to take over. Let's go for it.
Yeah. I was like, this is pretty mint. Like this is a big old thing. And he's like, just one more thing. How old are you? I was like 15. And he's like, oh, okay. And when do you turn 16? I was like, September next year. He's like, oh. this will be a problem because the age at Grand Prix was 16. Unless you won either Red Bull Rookies or CEV, you had to be 16 years old to go into Grand Prix.
Never.
So I was like, this is what went into 2017. So my expectation and the pressure on me, not the expectation, I'd say, was that I needed to be good because
the Grand Prix team wants me.
There was a potential ride there for Grand Prix, and I had a tough year in 2017. It wasn't horrific. I think I finished 13th or 14th in CV that year in the championship.
13th in CV, 12th in Red Bull Rookies.
Yeah, Red Bull Rookies, I had a tough season. It was just, I was struggling. Mindset as well. Like mentally, I struggled a lot. Like just, there was, again, I'd say that was probably the only time I can remember that the pressure really got to me. And because I'd never had to experience it before. Like up until, and it was plain sailing. It was easy going. I'd go and race my metric and I was winning. I'd go race a super team bike. I was winning.
Yeah.
I got selected for rookies my first season. I had a good year, got podiums. Second year, more podiums. Running at the front of CEV. And then 2017, we changed bikes. We went to a KTM, which on paper would have been a better option than what we were running the year before, but we didn't have as much setup data for it. And I struggled to gel with the bike, and I just didn't quite get the results that I was having the year before. Didn't show the promise, I suppose you could say.
Yes.
Is what I showed the year before.
Yeah.
And I got to the end of the year, and there was nothing. And we didn't have any money, we didn't have anything to do. And then this is when the British Talent Cup came about. I phoned up Alberto Pucci. I was like, look, 12 months ago you offered me a ride in Grand Prix. I gave him all the reasons as to why 2017 wasn't quite as good a year for me, and he's like, oh yes, well, we can't really do much, but maybe we're working on something and we can help you with it, and ended up being the British Talent Cup. So in all fairness, I got a lifeline to go into the British Talent Cup. I wouldn't have been able to do anything else at that point, like just in terms of money and stuff like that. So
you were this is a 15-year-old. You were accepting.
Just turned 16, I think.
Just turned 16, and you were accepting. That's it.
Doing exams at school as well. So I was still full time at school. I was like 30 days off school a year, authorised to go and race. And I was coming back home and still having to go and do my Nat 5s or GCSEs and stuff like that. So it was like there was so much going on at that age for me. It was just a bit crazy. Now you'll probably question why I was doing GCSEs at 16, but 15 and 16. But that's what we do in Scotland. We do our exams a year earlier. So yeah.
So then you came back to do that British Talent Cup. Because I had big expectations for that as a championship, and it sort of
fizzled.
I just think it flopped a little bit. They didn't take anyone to Grand Prix, which was the idea, really. And you'd had that, I remember you had that sponsorship with obviously Bennetts, who's a loyal sponsor of the podcast. They did a campaign in 2014 time, didn't they, where it was like Rise and a Star, Find a Star campaign it was called, wasn't it? And you were like the face of that, I remember. You and Joe Francis, I think.
No, me and Josh Owens and Joe Francis
that's right,
were a
sorry.
big part of it.
That's correct, yeah. And then obviously you went on to do the Red Bull Rookie stuff. And when you came back to do the British Talent Cup, I remember thinking, that's a shame, but that might be your route. That might be your route across.
Well, that's what it was to me. You look British Talent Cup and all over the bikes, it was Road to MotoGP.
Yeah.
I was like, from what I'd been told, if I'd won it, I had an email saying if Rory wins the British Talent Cup, he'll be put into the talent team program.
Yeah.
So I won the British Talent Cup. I went out of my way to do it. Not out of my way. I tried hard and did it. I raced with a broken ankle. I broke my ankle. I think it was my fib, and a bone in my foot. Like the weekend before Racing.
Yeah.
Racing 600s in Scotland, and I just basically BSB who only allowed paracetamol. So I raced all weekend with a broken foot. I've won the first race, was second in the second race, and I was like, well, I did that to win the title. Won it in Valencia, and then there was nothing yet again. But then this is kind of going back to something else. I started riding a 600 at the start of 2018 because we kind of saw that the Grand Prix route was diminishing a bit,
becoming difficult,
and closing up. And me and Dad were like, well, what are we going to do here? Like, what are the options? Like, looking forward, what is the best thing I could do? And we just looked at it and went, well, it's going to have to be stock 600. So Brian at Kirkcaldy Kawasaki, he gave me a 600 to ride, a ZX6, and I ended up winning club racing for the year. And I'd say end of 2017, I was ready to quit racing because I'd been so, 2017 was such a tough year for me. I'd almost had the opportunity to go to Grand Prix in 16 if I'd been old enough. And in 17, that disappeared and everything was kind of crumbling down, it felt. And then it was like, I jumped on the 600 and I felt like it was just the best thing ever. Like, I just enjoyed riding it. It was like riding a supermoto. It was fun. It would move about, but it was controllable, and I just clicked with it instantly. And I found my love for racing again just by going and doing the KMSC and the East Fortune rounds.
What was the year that you did them few wildcards in
2018?
When Vickers was cleaning up, basically, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And then you turned up and that changed it.
I was doing British Talent Cup and Stock 6 at the same time.
Yeah, I remember that. I didn't realise that was the same. Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and
Class.
I think I led every race I entered in Stock 6. They did 3 rounds and I led every single race I entered.
Did he crash out of one, or did he crash
out of 2? I crashed out of Silverstone in the lead.
That's right.
At turn 1, and then
Alton Park.
Yeah. I hadn't raced in the UK that much. I'd done one season of UK tracks in 2014 on Super Teens. Come back to the UK, and at Alton Park, now I know, if you go too far left into Lodge, there's always a bit of standing water.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And I hit it and just tucked the front, first touch of brakes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, learning things even back then.
It's mad, like, even like, going back, like, that expectation, the pressure, and like, I'm leading that into the Superbike, and already in your story, you've gone through that much fluctuation of promise, start again, promise, start again, promise, start again, out of no fault of your own. And
so it all ended up going promise and start again in 2019 because there was nothing at the end of the British Talent Cup, and then
did you just not get anything from them?
Yeah.
It was just nothing.
I went to Valencia and I asked them, and they're like, "No, sorry, there's nothing we can do for you." I was like, "Well, here's the email that says this," and they're like, "No, that's lost in translation." I was like, I thought if you worked at Dorna, you probably didn't have to lose things in translation, but
yeah,
it is what it
well
is.
Said.
Is what it is. So yeah, for whatever reason, didn't work out. Just got back on the grind, and me and Dad put together what we could. I had Waterman Solicitors come on board as a title sponsor.
Yeah.
Chris Walker gave me a ZX6 to use on loan. So we went out riding 600s for the year in British Supersport and on a shoestring budget, you could quite literally say. And
Chris Walker's been responsible for like a few lads coming through. I remember Lee Jackson. He helped me personally. Went in 2013 when I first got a 600, and Mason Law rode the bike, and then he supplied us a bike and stuff, and obviously yourself. So he's done a lot really for young. Probably goes unnoticed, a lot of that actually from Chris. He's done a lot to help young riders out.
The funny thing is, the 600 I was riding the year before was ex-Chris Walker race school bike.
How was it?
So I think that kind of helped the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'd always mention it on the podiums and be like, oh yes, it's an ex-Chris Walker race school bike, and I think he quite liked it because I met him back then when I was like 10 years old. Yeah. Because my dad was doing a day. So
yeah.
It's just Matt, like you're like the oldest youngest man of in your career. It's like you're speaking like a 50-year-old, and with everything that you've achieved, but also the emotional journey of going up and down, and I feel like you've already answered me question of like that step from Supersport, from the outside looking in, and that's how I'm looking at it. Like, that's a big step, but actually, it not diminishing stepping up. British Superbikes is the fastest domestic series. We all know that, but you must have just stepped into there going, let's just do the job, and I can believe that looking at you.
What I did, I saw it as a stepping stone, because I wanted to be in Grand Prix my whole life, and I went to British Superbike and I was like, this is the next option for me to go to Grand Prix. This is like my next stepping stone. I saw Jake had done it, so I was like, right,
it can still happen.
There is a possibility here. And this is when I got in tow with John Hopkins, and John became my manager. I'd already sorted out my FS3 deal, and then John became my manager, and that's kind of where that relationship started, if you know what I mean. And
was that whole part of that was about getting you to Grand Prix?
Yes.
Yeah.
We looked at the options. Quite a few people offered to manage me at the end of the Super Sport season.
As they would, yeah.
And we just looked at where I wanted to be. And I was like, we had to look 2-3 years down the line and go like, what realistically, where can we be if we do this or we do that? And Superbikes for me was, like I said it to them with FS3 when I went in, Darren and Nigel and Matt Llewellyn, my crew chief from FS3 would tell you exactly the same thing. Like, I went in there and they knew I was coming in there as a stepping stone. They knew my goal was to be in Grand Prix and not to be in BSB. I knew that I had 2 years in British Superbikes before I was almost stuck there.
Yeah.
Not stuck there, but like I was there for a long term before I potentially could go towards Superbikes or something like that. Yeah. So if I do 2 years in British Superbikes and have a solid season, the option could be there to go to Grand Prix. So that's what I did. I worked as hard as I could to make sure that would happen, because I was like, I've been kicked in the teeth so many times over the last 5 years that I just want to get there. And then, lo and behold, at the end of 22, I got the option to go. Well, I actually did a couple of wildcards in Grand Prix in 22, in the middle of the Superbike season.
I remember that, yeah.
And I got the option to go full time last year, and it was like mega. It was like I finally got there. But then obviously the hard work just began, and that's a whole other story in itself, the Grand Prix thing.
Was John Hopkins your first manager?
Yes.
Why did was it a point of I need a manager, or was it because the option just arrived, you took it, or did you think that actually Did you need it?
Yeah, I would say so. Maybe not so much when I was in British Superbikes, but John knew where I wanted to be, and he had the links on where he wanted to be. Well, he had the links where I wanted to be. Sorry, and he did make it happen. He is the one who kind of got me to Grand Prix. He's the one who opened the doors for me and made the opportunities happen. John also opened up quite a few personal sponsors of mine, like for Alpine Star and stuff like that. I had had a long-term relationship with them prior, but like to get me into suits, like make that next step and go into A-Star suits and things like that, John made that happen. So like this is kind of going off topic a bit, not off topic, but probably a bit later on we'll talk about it. But I ended up spending a month and a half living with John in the beginning of last year in Southern California.
That's cool.
I remember the Instagram being very jealous sat at work. I got these two fuckers
Supermoto
riding motocross bikes around.
I think we did 21 days on the trot of riding. Like whether we were at Pala riding motocross, riding supermoto, riding dirt track at Josh Hayes' house. Like it was just non-stop, like every single day, and it was brilliant. Every night we went home and watched it on any Sunday, because it was like one of my favourite movies when I was younger, and it was John's favourite movie as well. We watched Faster. I don't know if you've seen that, the one that Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, he's in.
It's
John's
when John
in
first goes to Grand Prix.
So on a 500,
yeah. I like knew that film word for word. I watched it. Mum and Dad, we used to go on holiday to the south of France in the motorhome. I had a little portable DVD player. I'd be sitting in the back, keeping myself occupied, just watching Faster on repeat. Yeah. Knew it word for word, and John put it on. I was like, this is like childhood memories. I'm sitting watching it, and he's on screen
with your fangirling with your manager
in his living room. I was like, this is crazy.
But I tell you what, it's good to hear that you had such clear communication with FS3. You know, you haven't led anyone on at any point, if you know what I mean. It was a case of, look, you know, my goal is this, and I've met Darren. Like, I haven't met Nigel from the team, you know, and I know Darren, and they're just totally laid back lads, you know what I mean. They do the job, and they're just great people. And the fact that you opened the door and said, look, I want to get into the GPs. So when you stepped into that championship, I can already see that expectation element is still pretty high, but it's not overwhelming on this level of scale.
At BSB?
Yeah, or was it? You tell me.
When I went to the workshop for the first meeting with them, I said, Knockhill BSB will be my best round next year. I went, because I know the track and I don't have to worry about learning the track on that bike. I went, I know Knockhill like the back of my hand. And lo and behold, we went to Knockhill at round 2 and I got two second places and I was on pole, like second round in a superbike. And like that, I put I'd say all the expectation for me was that round. Like that was,
because you just knew you could do.
I knew if I was going to prove that I could be a superbike rider and a good rider, jumping from a super sport bike to a superbike, I meant it was going to happen at Knockhill. Like it was going to happen there, and that's like where I felt like I had to show my worth, if you know what I mean. That paddock,
of course,
and show that I'm not just somebody who's quick on a 600. I was like, my dad's always told me a fast rider can ride any bike. Like,
I like that.
Well, my dad said a good rider can ride any bike fast. So I was just like, well, I've got to learn to ride this bike fast because, I want to be a good rider. So I jumped on it, and like Knockhill, obviously it's Knockhill. It's 25 minutes from home for me. So I've grown up there, been there since I was 6 months old. So
did you ever feel any home pressure? You thought, if I make a dick out of myself, I'm letting me country down.
Not at Knockhill that year, because there was only 1,000 people there, because it was limited spectators with COVID. So it was like, well, I can only do what I can do. I know most of the people who are there, the 1,000 spectators, but like, I can only do what I can do. And there was no expectation, because at the end of the day I was a rookie in superbikes, and I think even if I'd broken into the top 10 at round 2 on a superbike, they would have been pretty happy.
Yeah, definitely.
Let alone be fighting in the top 5 and on the podium. So after that, it was kind of like, then my rookie season in superbike started, and for me it was kind of tough, because I think I came out of round 2 like 4th in the championship, and it was like other people's expectations started going like, oh, Rory Skinner's the next big thing. He's going to take the year by storm on the superbike in his first year. And I was like, I'd already told the boys back in November, before I'd even signed a contract, that Knockhill would be my best round of the year. So I knew that was going to happen. Not knew that was going to happen, but I knew that the best for me that year would come from there. So then my rookie season in superbike started at round 3, if you like. That's when I really started going, all right, I'm going to work towards being in the top 10. So I worked towards being in the top 10, and I worked towards being there consistently, and then just started chipping away at little things, learning all the tracks. And then, so the expectation wasn't really there. I taken it weekend by weekend again, and set realistic targets for each weekend I went to, each track I went to. So it was like, right, we're just going to learn this and go as we go.
Did you surprise yourself with your results?
I did, yeah. I did it not kill anyway. I didn't expect to do what I was doing.
I love that. He's telling Darren and Nigel, I will be like that.
No, but I said that would be my best round. Whether I got 7th, whether I got 6th, whether I got 10th or 12th, I don't know.
It's quite.
I didn't expect to go to the podium.
Okay, right. Now we're talking hindsight here. What was your... if I got this... Wow.
I said before I went into it, if I got a top 5, I'd be absolutely buzzing. And then I was 5th in race 1. I was like, well...
That'll do it.
Oh, shit. I've got to go better now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was just like, well, in that case, I've got to just kind of keep going at this.
But it's it shows the... It actually is... It shows the experience that you do have. Because we're talking about your career from being like 2010 riding mini bikes.
Yeah.
It's only 2024. Like, it's not a huge amount of time, but you've done so much in that time. And to say, basically, to the team you're just about to sign for, my best round is going to be round 2.
That's a lot of maturity, isn't it?
Well, it shows that you understand the job at hand.
So.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. It shows that you understood what you had to do, right?
It's like, at the end of that season 1 of season 2 of FS3, were you happy with your performance the whole way through?
As I said to you earlier, I got to Brands Hatch and my head was just melted. There was so much to take in on riding a superbike that my head was melted. I remember saying to Matt, my crew chief, when we went on a track walk, I was like, Matt, I'm ready for off season. Like, I can't take in anymore. Like, I'd learned so much that year up until that point about riding that I just could not comprehend any more information in my head. Like, it just wouldn't compute. It was just like, in this year, out that one, I would be fully involved in the conversation like I am with you two now, but it would just be like, I'd come out of the chat and just be like,
what?
Like, what just happened? Like, where are we? I was like, I hadn't had any head injuries or anything, but it was just like, there was that much going on.
Yeah, it's full on,
that much happened. And at the same time riding a superbike would be going to a race weekend Wednesday night, coming back on the Monday, in the workshop Monday afternoon or Tuesday with Dad, working a full week until the following Wednesday in the workshop, including, well, the only day we didn't work was Sundays, and even then we're probably still prepping our own stuff if I was going to ride Supermoto or 600s or whatever. So it was just like, I was non-stop, and I didn't have a time. I'd come back from racing, I'd be straight in the workshop with Dad, working on normal bikes, and then I'd be straight back to racing again. So I'd have no time in between, really, to think about what had happened, because it was just so non-stop. And I think at that point I was 19 when I jumped on the superbike. So it was like, still, I was just not long finished school. It was like just trying to take in everything, really.
Yeah.
It's mad. You almost skipped your childhood. No, not mean that as a demeaning thing, but it's like, from such a young age, the pit bike and the meta kits and that's being a kid.
Yeah.
But then, 15, like, going, this is me, that's insane.
The teenage years for me kind of disappeared a little bit, because I was like
traveling the world.
Yeah, when I was 13, I was 50 flights a year at the same time as doing schoolwork.
But it being an adult at that point, you know what I mean?
50 flights a year, that's...
Because I was doing Rebel Rookies and CEV, so
it's basically one a week, isn't it?
Yeah, and you'd have your 2-day tests for CEV, like, midweek. So you'd be like, the 10 days before, you'd be away out to test 2 days at Aragon, Valencia, wherever you're riding, and you'd be back. I'll be back at school again the next day, and then schoolwork, and then you'd be back out for the race meeting.
Is that a big part of your decision to come back to BSB?
You've jumped the gun here. You've jumped the gun.
Sorry, mate.
Not so much. Like, those years haven't really affected what my choice was for now. Like,
got you.
Those years are just they were what they were.
Yeah.
And they've obviously influenced where I'm at now, ultimately. But so they've kind of influenced the path that I've taken. Standing
at the end of a sort of 2-year experience of Grand Prix, plus all the bits in between that you've done. Can you come back to BSB? Do you feel satisfied with what you've done in Moto2? Like,
well, I would have liked the 2 years for a start, to be honest.
Well,
right.
Okay. Like I say, you're jumping the gun on all this, but it's like, so you've finished British, and like, I'm going to keep referring back to this little scale of mine. So you've got like 2 there, and then you've stepped in the British, and then the expectation level of yourself is going, I've got to make this work.
Yeah.
And like after year 1, it's almost like you've gone, I'm higher up than I thought. I'm on track. So it's almost like I can calm down a bit. You've gone into year 2 and your results have doubled, and you're a front runner at British Superbikes, the hardest series going. You're thinking, I've proven to myself I'm at the front here.
Yeah.
John Hopkins comes on board, everything starts to fall in place. You've stepped up. You are back at Grand Prix level. You're back to, like, this is the dream coming together. I have worked my arse off. The family have sacrificed everything. The whole world is slowly just going, this is your moment. Moto2 arrives. Where the fuck are you on this scale?
It's hard to say. I was just kind of living life and just going with it.
That's what I mean. He's so laid back. This is my whole point of the whole scale question. It's people should be listening to this going, you know what? It's just the journey element of it, you know, and you're not going fuck at a 9, going I'm here now, and if it doesn't work.
I was just getting to the point where I wanted to though. Like I'd set my goals and I was getting to the point where I was now getting to I was starting to achieve where I'd set out to be. And it was like, right, this is kind of, I didn't have a plan. Obviously it's impossible to plan, but the way that I'd worked things in my head of how it might go was starting to come together a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I could see, it was almost like you could see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I was like, right, this is where I'm aiming to be. And this is like, I can maybe see this actually coming off this time. And that's the thing, it was like, I never believed it until it happened, because it had happened like 2 or 3 times before that I'd been promised this and I'd been promised that, and it never
happened.
Never came about. So I was just like, oh, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'd like to go, but if it doesn't, well, I've proved myself I'm a superbike rider, so I should still be able to get a decent ride here.
So you've ticked that box, and then you've stepped into Moto2.
Yep.
And it's just talk me through that. Like the fact of like you've stepped onto the grid, you're here, you're there.
Was it a relief?
So,
yeah.
I feel like it was. Yeah. I feel like it was a different. Like my wild cards in 22 were different to my season in 23.
There's no pressure, right? Like,
yeah, wild cards in 22. If I'd went out and I'd finished 27th, it would have been like, well, Rory stayed on it over the weekend. He finished the race, and
that's
it was his first he'd ever ridden a Moto2 bike. I hadn't even sat in a Moto2 bike before the Wednesday.
He's done a great job, whatever happened.
Yeah, exactly. You can't really slag off doing a wild card if you've never ridden the bike before.
No.
So I was just like, well, I'll go with it, and I enjoyed it, and I think I finished 21st in the race. 21st in the race. Corsi punted me off on the last lap, and I lost 20th, so I was pretty annoyed about that. But yeah, I was like 21st in my first ever Grand Prix. I was like nearly top 20 in the world. I was like, that's pretty good. Got the other opportunity to go and race in Austria, but in between that, I was doing, I think we went Silverstone to Thruxton. Yeah, Silverstone to Thruxton for BS. So we went MotoGP at Silverstone, BSB Thruxton, Austria, MotoGP, Cadwell, BSB, back to back, 4 weekends on the bounce. So I was like, Moto2, Superbike, Moto2, Superbike. And I just never really had enough time to totally lock my head into one or the other. So I think I finished 21st again in Austria, and I was like, well, that was good. Again, no pressure. Another track I hadn't been to in years since Red Bull Rookies. So I was like, just got to go out and do it. And I came back to Cadwell, and I probably had not one of my best weekends. Well, yeah, probably one of my best weekends that weren't at Knock Hill. And BSB, like, was on provisional pole for Super Pole till Brad put that lap in. Up until that point, I had the fastest ever lap of Cadwell, and I always thought it was my bogey track. So I was like, well, I'm pretty happy with that. 4th weekend of riding bikes. So I was like, yeah, I'm feeling a bit tired, but, you know, we're going with it and we're doing well. And it was a great weekend. I was 3rd person into the showdown, got in there early, and it was like, great. And it was just like, that whole experience, the expectations, there wasn't really any for Moto2. It was just go out and see what you can do. Yeah. And I was still so focused on my BSB thing that it was like I wasn't really focusing. I was focusing on the Moto2, but I wasn't putting everything into it.
Yeah, of course.
That sounds like I just went in for a jolly, but like I wasn't
not at all.
I wasn't putting my full mental focus into Moto2 because I was at a point where I could be in the showdown for BSB. And
that was the additional thing, like, to do, yeah.
My job was to be in the showdown for FS3. Like, that's what I had to do. So I had to make sure that I was still, it's like going and doing your hobby on the weekends. It's turning up to work on Monday and still being there to do your job to your full capabilities. Like the Moto2 thing was great, and I'm so grateful that Darren and Nigel let me go and do that, because, you know,
a lot of people wouldn't.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I'm fighting for a championship. I was like second and third in the championship, and it's like, I don't know if we want him to go and do that and coming into the showdown and stuff like that. But they were like, yeah, go and take it, because again,
they understood where you were headed. Like,
I told them before that this was where I wanted to go, that the Moto2 was where I wanted to go. So they were happy for me to go and do that, because they looked at it as they were helping me on my route to where I wanted to be.
They definitely were. They were far from clipping your wings. You know what I mean? It'd be easy for them to go, no, and they just help. Like that. That says a lot. You know what I mean?
I have nothing but fond memories of my days at FS3. I still speak to Darren. I'm actually needing to give him a call back because I missed his phone call yesterday when I was motocrossing. But like, I still get on so well with all of them. Like, Darren and Nigel are just as much my friends as they were bosses. Like, I could go and have a normal conversation. Obviously, it might be a little bit more like edgy this year, I suppose, because I'm riding for a competitor team. But at the end of the day, like,
hey, they're in the sport for a reason. It's been sporting, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
But like stepping in Moto2, and let's talk the hard facts of it. You've signed a 2-year contract. Year 1, expectation, the pressure off, you're back learning, relaxed, chilled.
Yeah. So
was that the case, or was were you the opposite? Like, fuck, I've got to make this work.
Well, I had my own expectations. I'd done 2 wildcards and I was 21st in both wildcards. So I was like,
you knew where you could be.
I was like, I can start where I left off. Mm-hmm. That was what my thoughts were in my eyes, and obviously jumped into a whole new team. There was like a whole new team for me. Like, apart from doing the wildcards, they brought in like a separate side of the garage for me doing my wildcards. I jumped into the main team for the 23 season, and it was interesting. There was a lot going on. I honestly can't fault my side of the garage. My side of the garage was phenomenal. Both my mechanics, David and Gringo, and my electronics engineer Brian, and my crew chief Stuart, we were a great little team. We worked so well together, and my thoughts were just go out and see what I can do. I'd been told by the team owner and John that there was no pressure. I just had to do what I could do. And that's like, they believe in me, and I can do this and I can do that, and just chip away at things and work on it. And I was like, okay, cool, fair enough. We're all on the same page, and I went out and I did that. And Moto2 is tough. It's not easy, and I think I was 19th at Texas at round 3. So I was like
happy, but
I was like, gee, I've started off all right here. This isn't too bad. And we went back to Europe. We had Jerez, and Jerez was tough, but I was like a second off the front, like a second a lap off the Pedro Acosta. I was like, I'm quite happy with that.
These names are phenomenal. You know what I mean?
And I was going back to like the way I was taking superbikes. I was like, race by race, we'll see what happens. We'll set realistic targets each weekend, and we'll reevaluate on the Friday, and we'll see where we need to be at. And that's what we're doing. My crew chief Stuart, he's got an absolute wealth of knowledge. He's I think most people could say he's a paddock legend in Grand Prix. He's worked there since 1976, and he's won, I don't know, 8 to 10 world titles with riders he's worked with over the years. He was Kevin Schwantz's crew chief when Kevin won the world title.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing.
So Stuart knows what he's doing, and Stuart was keeping me right. He was making sure I was doing all the right things, and we were working through our program that we had together, and it was fine. And I had an off at Le Mans whilst I was running 17th or 18th, I think. So again, I was on the trajectory that I was wanting to go on, and it was good. And then had a bit of time off, like with 2-3 weeks. I say a bit of time off. We had 2 weeks off.
At your level, that's a lot.
Yeah, we had a classic weekend up at Knockhill, so I got to ride one of my friends' 500 Grand Prix bikes.
I seen that. I remember watching that at the time.
And I had Hopper up as well for the week, so we were like, it was just an amazing week, and I was feeling so good. I went to Mugello. Never been at Mugello before, so I had to learn the track. And then I had a big crash on Friday. I clipped the gear shift, the shift lever, and it went as I went through the penultimate corner, the fast right, and it just loaded up the front, and just with it going, it loaded the front and it tucked it. And then for some reason, the bike decided that at 110 mile an hour, it was going to just put itself back on 2 wheels again, and it wrecked itself. So gave the boys a fair bit of work. They had to rebuild the bike for Saturday morning. The medical centre said I'd had a contusion to my foot, but it actually turned out I'd broken my talus bone in my ankle. So I went out on Saturday morning. Well, I'd done damage to my foot on the Friday, and I went out on the Saturday morning and I got wiped out in FP3. Ooh. And that was really the final hit for my foot.
Was it they hit your foot?
Yeah. It was free practice 3, and somebody just lunged up the inside of me. They tucked the front because they realised they weren't going to make it, and then wiped me clean out of it. Wow. So I concussed myself. I gave myself a good concussion. Broke my talus, which I found out later by getting private MRIs in Mugello somewhere. And went back home and I had 6 weeks off, and that was my summer break because it was meant to be a triple header. We were meant to go from Mugello to Sachsenringen in Assen. So I missed
2 Grand Prix.
Basically 3 Grand Prix because I had Friday where I was learning the track, and I was like 10 minutes into FP3 and I got wiped out. Yeah. So I missed your qualifying and your race, and your race is where you learn the most, especially for me at that point. So I missed 3 Grand Prix through no fault of my own, and then I missed the 6 weeks of my summer break because you can't do anything when you got a broken ankle like that. So
no training, no nothing.
The doctor was like, you cannot weight bear because it's your talus is like your scaphoid. It's got one blood supply to it. So if it doesn't knit together the first time, it'll die. Yeah. And then at that point, you need it fused, and then your ankle's basically kaput.
Career over.
Yeah. So I just had to sit and do nothing really. I could do bits and bobs, and I was like trying to do all my homework I could, watching races and stuff like that to come back for Silverstone, but it was tough. Came back for Silverstone, got wiped out again in the race, and it was like FP, go back for Silverstone. FP3, I was leaning it at one point because it was wet, and I was like, bit of a leveler, felt good, know the track, got a bit more understanding for the bike, and I was leaning FP3, and I think I finished 8th in it at the end. So I was like, yeah, we're come back, and I'm still going all right. And yeah, after that, it was a bit hard. Like, had a couple up and down weekends, and again, I was still fighting in and out of the top 20, and I didn't really do too bad a job for the remainder of the season. But yeah, team owner saw differently and started throwing up different things, and yeah, again, I didn't have my second year, so I was happy enough with how things had been going, and we were working on it, and I was finishing top 20 week in, week out, and like getting in sessions, and in a lot of the races, I think 7 or 8 races from Silverstone onwards, I was in the top 20, and I kept getting wiped out in sessions and races, and just silly little things that weren't my fault that were kept hindering me. But a lot of people on the outside didn't really see that. They only kind of see the bigger picture. They look at the results and go, Rory's 20th, but it's like, yeah, I'm 20th. I've ridden my heart out. I've never ridden harder in my life to finish P22 than what I have just there. So it's like, it's tough.
People don't see below the surface, do they?
Yeah.
No,
the level's insane, isn't it? You only have to look at a timesheet to understand that. Yeah.
But then, like you say, it's like, at the end, you're another British hope in MotoGP, and at that level. And I think that, do I dare say, the common man would just look at the results, and just go, shite.
Well, this is
the
thing.
people in our sport.
Jake's up there getting top 5s and things like that, and Jake's riding amazing at the minute. I really think he could do a good job in Moto2 this year. But I then look at it and go, Jake's had 5 years. This is going to be him going into his 6th year in Moto2, and it's like, I had a year and I missed a fair chunk of it, like 3 Grand Prix at that level, especially when they're back to back. So you're learning every weekend. I felt like I lost quite a lot.
Even just that momentum of 3 rounds on the bounce, it would
exactly going into a summer break to then have a summer break of riding, training, and doing things to fully prepare. I missed the summer break as much as I missed the 3 rounds.
For your mindset more than anything, even as well. Exactly. I can imagine it'd make a big difference.
So for me, like, I had 1 year in Moto2, and it was kind of like, it wasn't like I had a plain sailing year and I did everything that I could do. I tried my hardest, but I'd say the odds were up against me a fair part of it. So I would have liked to have had my second year. I feel like, given my second year, I could have like gone back to tracks that I know and been like, okay, this is where I'm at. I've got all my notes from last year. I can look at this, I can look at that. I'd have the same team around me, and it would be like, right, okay, we can actually do something with this. I can fight towards getting into points, and I would have been quite happy with that. Well, I got points in Phillip Island. I got 12th place at Phillip Island when the conditions were a bit crazy, and I was like, oh, that's a bit more like home, a bit more like what I know. And I rode from, I think, 28th in the grid to 12th. I was like, there we go. Like, I was quite happy with that. I got points. I was like, points in my first year in Moto2, I'll take that.
You're damn right.
And it was like, it was all set and ready to go for my second year, building up, and then I got told at the hotel car park in Thailand that I didn't have a ride.
Excuse me?
Team owner just pulled me to the side. He went, yeah, sorry. John was busy at the track. He was doing TNT sports stuff, so I didn't get to have my management there. And he just went, yeah, you don't have a ride next year. We can't do the 2-year deal thing. I was like, oh, okay.
In a car park?
In a car park at the hotel in Thailand.
He just told you, like, literally just like...
Text. I got a WhatsApp saying, can you meet me at reception? I was like, oh, do I need to bring my bags? Because we're just packed up on the Sunday night. I was like, oh, do I need to bring my bags? And he's like, no, just come have a chat. I was like, oh, okay. I'm going to have a chat with him. He's like, oh, you don't have a ride next year. I was like, I'm half the world away from my parents that we've worked our hardest to get here. And
you've just told me that.
You've just told me that. I was like,
in a car park?
In a car park. Not even in a car, just in a car park.
Just blasé.
I didn't expect it. Just boom, got told. Then I found out that
How did that change the rest of your season?
It was hostile, very hostile.
Yeah.
Because then I'd actually been told. I got told that night as well that my teammate at that point in the year had been telling people that he's got a ride next year and he's in the American Racing team, and I was like, how does this work? Because I know Joe's been signed and that I've got a 2-year deal. I was like, so how does this work?
So at this point, you're putting the puzzle together here.
Yeah, so he'd been told he had a ride before I'd even been told I didn't. And by this point...
And is Joe going back to that team?
Joe's going to American Racing, yeah. So
seeing the thing on Instagram.
But that got announced like midway through the season, so I was like, oh, this would be cool. I'll have somebody English speaking on the other side of the garage I can learn from, and Joe's got a good amount of experience. We can hopefully... And
have they kept the other lad on as well then?
Yeah.
Yeah, your teammate.
Yeah, so... It was, I'd say, a kick in the teeth. I handled it a lot. I handled it a lot better this time because I'd had these kicks in the teeth
before.
So I was like, if I just don't say anything, silence is better than
You know,
say something.
I'm just going to say this.
yeah,
I think you handle it brilliantly. You know why? Because you haven't gone on a rant. You haven't done this yet. You know what I mean? It's just like, when the news hit, everyone was going, what the and you could have easily gone.
So was I.
No. I bet you, mate. I bet you were. I can only imagine. But you know what I mean? You handled that brilliantly. It's it's beyond shit situation. But you have, even now, you are like.
I was being harsh on myself, like at that point in the year, because I wasn't meeting my own expectations at that point, and we've kind of talked about the whole expectation thing, and I am very laid back, but I'm laid back when I'm performing and I know I can do the job, like most people.
Yeah, because
but when I feel like I was performing in terms of I was riding well, but I wasn't quite achieving, and on paper I wasn't where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
So I was trying everything I could do to make sure I was getting a bit better, and a bit better. And it was like, I'd been trying so hard to do that all year that it was like, I get that news and I'm like, it's just it's been, I was almost kicking myself in the teeth through those flyaways anyway, because I was struggling a little bit just with the new tracks and the humidity, the temperature, the lifestyle. Like, you go to a country and most countries you go to and you can at least read what it says in the menu. You might not be able to pronounce it, but you can.
It's like that in Teesside, to be honest.
Yeah, you could read what it says. Like, it might be in Spanish, but you know it's in Spanish. And you go to Japan, you go to Malaysia, all these places, and you're like, I don't actually have any clue what that says. I can't even guess what that is unless it's got pictures on it. Yeah. So it's like you're trying so hard to live a whole different life, and it's like, I'm being hard on myself on it, and then all of a sudden it's like, boom, you get that extra news, and it's just like...
Was there any opportunity to stay in Grand Prix in another team?
It was that late in the year that all the kind of competitive rides were kind of taken up. And I'd heard stories of people going into teams and offering €500,000 to get a ride for the following year, and I was like, well, I don't have that. Like, even if I had the money, I wouldn't be chucking €500,000. Like, because again, you can't. It's hard to see the investment in it.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I want to be in Grand Prix. I want to be in Grand Prix as much as anybody, and I wanted to have my second year. But €500,000, like, some people could retire on that. Like, that is a chunk of money to put it 1 year in racing. And when a worth the paper it's written on, it's like, you're putting $500,000 in that, and realistically, if you're not quite where somebody expects you to be, then it's just like, you're gone. And it's like, I just couldn't. I had this conversation with a few people. I'd worked my whole life to get to Grand Prix, and I got to Grand Prix, and I went there because I had a 2-year deal, and I had security, and I'd been assured from the team owner as well at the start of the year that the results don't matter. I just need to do this, that, and the other. And I understand sponsors make the world go round, they make the racing happen, and maybe the sponsors weren't quite happy with this, that, and the other. And I get that. I did all my sponsor duties, and I did them all to the best of my ability, which was fine. They were happy with that, but I can see the results and wasn't getting the TV time, and that's what sponsors look for. So I get it from that perspective, but it's just tough when I get told I have security and then all of a sudden
you didn't have it. Yeah, fair.
I didn't, and the thing is I'd had meetings with him before, and I'd been offered this, that, and the other in BSB and in different championships, and I sat down with him and went, look, I'm kind of getting not shady vibes, but like things aren't I'm not feeling quite right. Like, I'm not comfortable with this. Like, you've told me I've got a ride, but like, do I actually have a ride? I went, because I've been offered this X, Y, and Z to go here, and I don't want to pass it up if I don't have a ride. No, you have my word. You got a ride. 3 weeks later, it's like
in a car park.
Yeah. So I had this meeting in an office, and I'd 3 weeks later, it's like, oh, sorry, you don't have a ride. Whilst I've already turned down competitive rides here, there, and everywhere, because I'm like, no, I'm sticking with the Moto2 route because it's where I want to be.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're now near enough in November, and it's like, every competitive ride in most championships are already taken up.
Yeah. So
I'm like, where am I meant to go now? It's like, I had options to go to CEV with the team. I had options to do World Supersport, but they the team got in contact with John. Was like, oh, we'd love to have Rory. We just need a
support package.
No, what was the word? We just need a. It's gonna come to me. It made me laugh. It made me giggle. We just need a small help or like
donation.
Yeah, it wasn't a donation, but something like that. We just need a small
contribution. That's
it. We need a small contribution of €150,000. I'm like, in what world? In what world is that small contribution €150,000? Like, maybe $5,000 is a small contribution in that world.
Pay your own travel sort of thing.
Yeah, a small contribution of 150,000. I'm like,
What?
We're like 2 different worlds apart here. Like, this isn't even gonna happen. I was like, yeah, sorry, no. But then we're speaking with Philip Neal and the guys at Taz, and then it kind of, obviously things have kind of gone together, and it's played out really well. I'm really happy with the team Philip's put around me. I don't know. I don't want to go into.
No, but I mean, it's really sad that actually it's not an unfamiliar story that we're hearing, is it? It's happened to a lot of Brits that have gone to MotoGP and stuff over the years, and it typically comes down to some sort of budget or being sort of overlooked for whatever reason, and it's a shame really. But as much as we'd have loved to seen you have that second year, but in the same breath we're quite excited to see you back in BSB. I think we've got quite a competitive grid again. I mean, it'll always be competitive, but there's a lot of people.
The level's high this year. There's a lot of people who are wanting to prove a point.
Some points, yeah.
So it's I think it's a good time to come back to it for a spectator's point of view.
Yeah.
Maybe as a rider it's going to be a tough year to come back, but I feel like I've learned a lot in my time in Grand Prix.
I was going to say that. Do you think that when we watch Taz come back from Grand Prix and back and jump on a superbike, I think it really showed?
Yes.
Do you feel like you're coming back as a bit rejuvenated? Not rejuvenated is the wrong word, but a bit. You've got a bit to show for it.
Definitely, I'm coming back hungry, which for a start, which will be good. Like I'm kind of not there. I don't know if prove a point's the right thing, but again, show my worth. Like kind of as we went into 2021, I wanted to do a good job and show that I am a good rider, because I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, Moto2 was a waste of time. Rory really shouldn't have been there. He should have done this and he should have done that. And I get that, from a spectator's point of view. And if you're a keen motorcycle fan, that maybe I shouldn't have went to Moto2, maybe I should have stayed in BSB and won a title, but you never know that.
It's easy to say
that Moto2 ride is going to be there the following year. Like, the opportunities to go to Grand Prix are few and far between.
Listen, when you've gave up your whole life and you want to go to Grand Prix, I mean, it's like saying how many kids want to be a professional footballer, and then you get the chance to go and play for Man United or whatever. You're going to say yes, aren't you?
Yeah,
it doesn't matter what the deal is.
No, if that opportunity is there, you're going to jump at it. And especially when I was in my situation where I was like, I've been so close so many times and it hasn't happened. I'm like, it's there, and I have a contract there that I can sign, which turned out not to be kind of worth the paper it was written on. But I was like, I'm going to sign it. I'm going to be in Moto2, and it was like, job. Great, we're there. And
excellent.
Yeah, then we're back here, but I'm happy to be back here. I'm happy to be coming back to the British tracks. I'm happy to be coming back to the British fans, because I did miss it. I had good support. There was like Scottish flags and everything. Even when we were in Qatar and Malaysia, I think the only track I didn't see a Scottish flag this year was Argentina.
Yeah.
But I had so much support, and it was great going all around the world and still having support. But yeah, racing at home is cool. Racing at home is nice, and it'll be good to be back in front of the home crowd.
So stepping from that championship, have you had the same conversation that you had with FS3 in regards to going back into GPs?
Yeah, I mean, Philip, I haven't actually spoken to Hector, but I've spoken to Philip. Obviously, Philip runs most of the team these days. But yeah, I spoke with Philip, and he knows exactly where I want to be at. He gets it. Philip's been a competitive motocrosser in his younger years, and he's run a very competitive team himself. So he gets that from a racer's perspective. He knows where I want to be. He knows what I want to be doing.
Yeah,
and he's totally fine with that. He wants to see me succeed, and he wants to see me progress into something else. I've got a 1-year contract with the team. There's an option to renew it if things are going well and I want to stay there. But at the end of the day, I think he would be just as happy for me to move on to something else, like in another championship elsewhere, and if the opportunity presented itself. And I feel like, having spent a bit of time with Philip now, he'd be the first person to push me to do that. Like he'd want me to succeed, and he'd want me to progress back through to where I want to be.
Yeah, no, that's refreshing to hear. It's I don't think I've met Philip a handful of times. I've been over to the workshop. I've met Lee. They're just you know what? I don't mean any disrespect for anyone, but they're typically Northern Irish. They're just class human beings on this earth.
But this is what I'm looking forward to, because Scottish and the Irish always get on well, whether they're Southern or Northern. We always just get on good. So I'm looking forward. I think it'll be a good crack in the garage. It'll be a good laugh.
100%. Oh, them lads are absolutely they're fantastic. They are fantastic people. They really are. And it's good that you're stepping back into that home environment on that side of things. But can you see more options appearing at GP in the future coming?
Honestly, I don't know. It's hard. It's a tough old situation.
It's a tough. You know what? It's not just a situation for you. It's the game, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's like it. You are doing everything, in my opinion, looking at you now and everything that we've talked about. It's like you are doing everything right You're doing above and beyond the Call of Duty, but the opportunities have to arise, don't they? Is that a fair comment, or am I wrong? Am I right?
The opportunities are few and far between.
Unless you win the Euros.
If I win the Euro Millions, I know what I'll be. You know where I'll be in 2025. But it's just a tough one, really. You know, this is why I taken the Moto2 opportunity when it came. This is why I went and taken it for last year, because you never know when it's going to happen. You never know when these opportunities are going to come along. And I don't know what the next 2-3 years hold. So this is what like I said earlier, like we had a kind of 2-3 year plan of where I want to be. And I've got an idea of where I want to be and what I want to do, but how that path looks itself out, I don't know, because there's so many variables in it. I'm at that point now that it's like, I can do the job that I can do, but you've got to wait for all the other cards to fall into place and make sure everything else is right. So I'm just going to do the best job I can possibly do in BSB this year and make sure that I ride the best I can and do the best job I can to see where that kind of puts me for 2025, really.
Does World Superbikes is taking a bit more your focus maybe for the future, do you think?
I think so. I think World Superbikes is probably the most realistic place to aim for at the minute.
From a World Championship perspective,
yes.
Understand,
And BMW are at the minute putting an awful lot of effort into that. I know they've just signed up about 30 people for that test team they run with Bradley Smith and Gintoli. So
and when you got Top Rack and top of timesheets,
put Top Rack on it, and Top Rack just followed me on Instagram the other day. I was absolutely buzzing. I just got a notification with
it's nice.
He's like, forget going to Grand Prix. Top Rack's just followed me.
Top Rack's just followed me.
That's what I mean. You got a MotoGP lad here fangirling over like people following him. That's class.
We're just keeping it real. That's the thing. Like you got to. It's I've got to look at what the options are. BMW are putting an awful lot of effort into their World Superbike project at the minute, and all around the world, really. Like they're putting a big effort in an AMA with Cambobi out there, and you know, I think BMW isn't a bad place to be at the minute.
At the end of the day, the rules are always adapting in this sport, constantly adapting. You know, they're doing that with the Ducatis, they're doing that with the Yamahas. I think across the board, it's especially with the British element. I think, you know, the BSB organisers like Stuart Higgs and his team and everyone, they do such a good job of keeping the championship tight, and this championship is only getting harder.
Yeah.
Yet again, I'm going to say the words. Where's that pressure level?
I don't know. I'll evaluate that once I get to the first test.
I love these answers. Honestly,
when is your first test?
First test April, but I presume we'll probably do a shakedown test at some
before
point.
That. Yeah.
But one thing I haven't mentioned, I'm getting to take my crew chief from Grand Prix last year, Stuart Shenton, over with me. So
are you really?
For me, that's a big thing, because Stuart's never actually worked out with the Grand Prix paddock. He's done Daytona and stuff with Suzuki and things like that, but he's never actually spent a full season working on a production bike. Now, I don't really see that being a problem. He's a very smart man. He's gonna know what he's looking at, and he's gonna pick it up pretty quickly. But I feel honoured to have taken him with me, because I'm the first rider he's actually went out with the Grand Prix paddock with. So he was John's crew chief, Hopkins' crew chief when John was at Suzuki, and you know. So
hold on. So he has been in the British.
No.
When Hopper was.
Suzuki. Oh, sorry, I keep forgetting that. Yeah. Sorry.
So it's going to be pretty cool having Stuart in the box with me. He's going to bring a lot of law and order. Again, Philip and the guys have built like a really strong team on my side of the garage. It's going to be a one bike superbike team. Davey has taken a step back to do stock 1000, which I didn't know about until we actually did the team launch. But you know, I think it's going to be good, because what Philip and the boys are doing is they're putting their absolute maximum effort into what they can do, and rather than running two superbikes at maybe not quite their very best, they're going to run one stock bike at its absolute best and one superbike at its best, to the best of their ability. So I've got Matt Last is coming on board as my electronics engineer. He was Augusto Fernandez's electronics engineer at Red Bull KTM IO in Moto2 when Augusto won the title. So I'm going to get my finger out here and have a pretty strong season.
And got some doers in the garage then.
The boys have put together a really strong side of the garage, but this is another reason why I went down the Taj route, because I knew Philip and the guys were hungry to have a good season. Lee's going to be my number one mechanic. So
you've obviously met Lee.
I've met Lee.
What a gentleman! I mean, he's borderline too good for this world. He's such a gentleman. It's unreal.
He lives for it. I think that's probably the best. He just lives for it. He loves it.
He's just that is fantastic. Mind you, the colour change, the Jamie Lyons blue. Is absolutely beautiful. Now I'm taking the piss. I was in Northern Ireland, so we went to go pick up a bike for Jamie Lyons, and It's Lee that does the graphics, Unlimited.
Okay.
Oh God, I'm gonna get that wrong, and he'd be screaming because it's him and his family listen to the show. And Unlimited Graphics in Northern Ireland, what a fantastic job they do on the bikes, and that's your bike that you're racing. And obviously, Jamie's Lions bike was in the queue, but then the TAS lads jumped it because they had to get it ready for your launch. So when the blue is the vinyl that was going to go on Jamie's bike, and it was like, this is what's great about the Paddock. At the time, they're like twats, but it's like, nah. Come on,
I get it.
Yeah,
Nah,
I understand. Exactly, we can live with it. So, like, for everyone listening, it really makes Jamie Lyons Blue makes the Cheshire moulding pop really nice.
No, but that's another thing. I'm really happy to have Cheshire Mouldings on board as well, because Cheshire Mouldings, I obviously rode for them. And
I was thinking that before.
Yeah, nice
they were the
connection
title sponsor, and then John and Jackie actually came on board as a personal sponsor of mine in Moto2 last year. So it's actually, I've got a really good relationship with them, and I'm looking forward to having them on the bike. And,
excellent. Yeah,
having them on board really for 2024. It's going to be pretty cool. Really, it's nice to have another connection there. Yeah.
With having a year out, do you feel like it's changed a lot from the outside looking in? Because you have had a year on the sidelines watching, well, not the sidelines, but watching the sport. Do you think it's jumped up, watching the two Ducatis of Paul Bird, and they're at the moment, like, Tommy's gone to Honda, there has been a few seat changes, hasn't it? It's a bit...
It's hard to say. I think BSB's always going to be competitive, but looking at it, and obviously tracks and conditions change, the pace wasn't as fast as what it was in 22. Brad did a 32.8 round Oulton in 2022 in qualifying. Like, 32.8 round Oulton Park on a superbike is ridiculous. I did a 33. They didn't break many lap records, if any, I don't think, last year.
Yeah, that is a good statistic.
I don't think... The level's still high, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that the level's dropped. The level is still very high. But I think 2022 was a pretty extreme season. Like with Chasin wanting the title again in 22.
Yeah.
Brad, Ray, Kyle, myself, Taryn, Lee, and Tommy as well on the
Oxford,
on the Oxford bike at that time. The level was ridiculous. Like there was 7 or 8 people who would
win a race,
win a race, or who you could guarantee to be on 3 spots at the podium. Like it was tough going, and again, it was like that last year, but I feel like it was a bit more varied and a bit spaced out at times. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, there was definitely. Well, I think the two Ducatis as well. They were a bit in front as well. They definitely had the legs on the sort of rest at stages in the year, didn't they? So
they looked pretty quick at times.
Yeah, it was. It was a bit spread out, wasn't it? But I'm quite excited to see what it looks like this year. Like I'm quite excited to see Jason on a different bike.
I'm interested to see what he can do in the Kawasaki.
Yeah.
I know FS3 have changed the package a little bit since I rode it, but I honestly felt like me and Lee got the absolute best we could out of that bike, because we were going to every track and we were within, it was like half a tenth on our best lap times, basically everywhere we went. So that to me tells me that we were on the limit of what we had.
Yeah.
Like we couldn't really have gotten much more out of it. And when I was catching up the Yamahas in the middle of the corner on a Kawasaki, I was like, well,
I'm doing a good job.
I'm catching the Yamahas on their strong point, and then just came to putting power down. We just couldn't quite get off the edge, like we didn't have the grip off the corner. So it was the Kawasaki was good, and I think Jason he's a good rider. He'll certainly make it work, and he'll do a good job in it. But it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
I'm looking forward to it.
I'm buzzing to get into BM, to be fair. Like I can't wait for it.
You have been, I tell you what, this is what's the power of social media and the power of like the rumour mill and stuff like that. Because you can imagine, there's Rory Skinner. Your news came out, about like Moto2, and it's like, where's Rory gonna go? Where's Rory going? And then he's doing great big dirty wheelies on a BMW past like Lee Johnson on test days and stuff like that. And you're thinking, you can imagine people are just chucking.
You don't know how hard that was to not be posted. I must have 1,000 videos and photos on my phone from the last month of being out in Spain. Like I have so much media on my phone that
you can't share.
I couldn't have been posted because I couldn't spill the beans, if you know what I mean. I'd be pretty crafty with what videos I was posting, so if people saw it was like this and that. I had a little tip off, and Chris Barnes gave me a bit of a hand to get me some parts whilst I was waiting on the boy sending me some other stuff over. So I had a Chris Barnes's DC Racing blue tank as seat unit on a carbon, what looked like carbon fibre fairings on my stalker. So that kind of threw everybody off again, and people thought I was riding for Ashcourt. It was going to be Lee Johnson's teammate because I'd been hanging about with him, and I was actually loving it, to be fair, because it was just like I knew where I was. I'd already signed my contract, and I was just loving seeing the chaos in the comment section, seeing what it was.
Here's a question that people who listen to the show, and there's a lot of things that happen so much internally in racing. how long did you have the contract signed for?
Well,
how long have you had it signed for? 2 months?
I picked him up my BMW practice bike on the 16th of December. So,
see what I mean? It just shows how, what the end result is and how much has to happen behind the scenes to make a product work. It's not like we'll hold on to that news for 4 months just to wind people up. It's just that much internal politics. It's just people just think the way the news came out that there's you and Davey, standing there in 2 foot about, this happened last week.
Yeah.
It really isn't, is it? In December, and you're getting prepped and ready to go.
Yeah.
And it's mad. It's absolutely crazy because the sportsmen. Absolutely mint. It
always keeps you on your toes, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it?
Mega.
It does.
As I was saying, I've been out in Spain that BM, and as a stock bike, I'm loving it. And I know the stock bikes go quite well. The superbike is going to be a different animal. I'm aware of that, but if the superbike if I can be half as comfortable on the superbike as what I am on a stocker, then I think I'll be all right. I think it won't be too bad. So I've just been spinning laps, just sticking SC2s in the back of it, just burning them up, spinning it, just having fun, just enjoying riding bikes. Like after the year I had in Moto2, it was tough. It was mentally demanding. It was just, I kind of lost my enjoyment for racing a bit because it was so. It was mental torture at some points because the bikes are so hard to ride and so hard to find how you're going to get that next half a second. By doing so many minimal little things. I was just happy to jump on a superbike, stocker, and just be like, I can open the throttle, I can turn it off the throttle, I can back it into the corners, I can get a bit of front end feel, I can be back on Pirellis as well from the Dunlops. It was just this was nice. It was nice to just be back on something that it didn't feel homely, it felt so weird after coming off of a Moto2 bike.
Yeah. But what would you say just for everybody listening, talk about the Moto2 bike being so hard to ride? Why? What was the big thing? Because the superbike's adjustable in pretty much all the same ways, right?
Superbikes are soft. Realistically, the superbikes have got a lot of flex in them. Even though the British superbikes have got chassis strengthening and stuff like that, they still feel quite like the Kawasaki certainly did. Kawasaki still gave you had a lot of flex and a lot of feedback. And see, what you've just asked me, I've tried. My dad asked me the same question. Obviously, me and my dad worked together running our own team for years, and Dan Lad Racing all the way through my career, and it's I could not for the life of me explain to him. I was like, it's got 2 wheels and an engine, and that's where the similarities stop. Everything feels different. On a superbike you use your arms quite a lot to turn it, you use a lot of counter steering. On a Moto2 bike you don't use your arms. Your arms are just literally for braking and throttle. Obviously there's more than that, but you do all your change direction with your feet on a Moto2 bike. Whereas a superbike is a bit more with your arms. You use your feet, but a lot of it comes from your arms, muscling it about with the big wide bars. It's just weird. It's little things. I've spent the last 3-4 years learning to ride a superbike, learning to ride production bikes.
Picking it up.
And then you jump on a Moto2 bike and it's you got to relearn basics. The Moto2 bike felt numb, I think is the best way to say. It felt numb unless you're on the limit. But then you try pushing to the limit when you got no feeling. But then somebody else comes past you, don't have that much feeling, and then somebody else comes past you and you're like, wow, well, they've obviously got a bit of feeling, there is obviously still more grip, so then you push to that, and then the faster you go, the more of a feeling you have, but the window you've got is
it's set up to do lap record pace, and it'll feel shit up until that point.
Basically. So you're constantly fighting the bike to make it work, and you're overriding what you're. You've always got that voice in your head. You're I am on the limit here. You get a warning. You're right, that's a limit. But then somebody else is coming past you having the
bigger one.
Having the same moment. Exactly. Having a bigger moment coming past you, and you're well,
there's more moments to add.
But then the Moto2 bike, and then all of a sudden it'll go boom, and you've tucked the front, and you're down the floor, and you're right, I don't particularly know how that crash went or happened, but you've then got to rewrite your brain in the next 10 minutes whilst the boys rebuild the bike and go back out again. And try and go even faster. It's weird. It's such a tough championship, and a lot of people won't understand that because there's no really comparing it. You've got your European Moto2 Championship, and then you've got Moto2. The BSB GP2 class doesn't really come close. No, the way the rules are.
That was my next question. How close is what we got?
And a lot of them bikes that look at the GP2 class at the moment. There was one Calex, but it's gone now.
But it's an old CBR Honda. It's not the Triumph engine.
They're just not the same. They're not home built thing. That's doing those guys a disservice.
They're lovely machines, but they're
not the level.
I wouldn't say they're for UK tracks either. A Moto2 bike isn't for Cadwell. A Moto2 bike isn't for Oulton. No. It's good at Thruxton, and Kyle and Josh and Jack
showed
Scott,
that,
and Charlie Nesbitt all shown how good the Moto2 bike is on a track that it actually works on, and same with Silverstone. But when you get to Oulton Park, It
a
was
different
never quite
animal.
there. Yeah, it's just not really designed for bumps and undulations like
Yeah.
that.
Do you think it's undulations on the side of the tyre? That's where it doesn't like it. You think about everywhere, like Thruxton's just flat, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
not.
but it's quite bumpy though, isn't it?
Yeah, so it doesn't. Yeah, it's hard to tell, isn't it? Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird thing. Like, I'm usually quite good at giving bike feedback. Like, I could rail off to you what I like and don't like about the stock and what chassis changes I want to make to that. But
Moto 2 is
the
different.
Moto 2 is just so everything's so small and minute.
What sort of things would, if you don't mind is asking, because what always boggled my mind is when you look at World Championship, and it's the same in Superbike, but I guess there's a bit more knowledge or less you can do with it. But when you watch some of the World Championship stuff and they come in, they'll do 3 laps and go out and make a big change and go out and do it again. They'll be making lots of changes in a session. What would you typically be changing in a session?
It's such a refined class.
At Texas, when I finished 19th, we didn't change anything all weekend. Stuart
Just
put in a base setting, and he was like, just ride it. And I was like, yep, okay, that's fine by me. I'll just ride it, and didn't change anything all week. A bit of engine braking here and there.
Yeah.
And that was it. I just rode the bike. And to be honest, for me in Moto 2, that's like what we did in most places. Once we got the spring rates and the balance of the bike, we just kind of left it.
Oh, right, okay.
Because there was more to come from me riding it than what there was chasing. You maybe biking a bike a tenth better. But I had 3-4 tenths, 5 tenths in my riding.
Yeah. So it's down to where you were in your journey on a Moto 2 as opposed to what you...
That is good. Like, from the outside looking in, I clearly haven't been where you are, but that is just the more you're talking, the more excited I am for this season. No, you know what I mean? You've got a bike with... I feel like I've just piled a lot of pressure on him, but I haven't. But but you know what I mean? You're going from something like you've worked on yourself. This last year has been solely working on yourself. It's like, don't change, don't fuck about.
But that's why I've liked jumping back into the stock.
That's
because
it's like soft.
It's easier. It's not easy to ride, but it's easier to ride than a Moto 2 bike.
Yeah, of course.
So I jump back on it and I'm like, I know how to adapt myself to different situations. And this could be totally different on the Superbike. And I don't want to set myself up for a fall going, I'm going to jump on the Superbike and I'm going to adapt to this, I'm going to adapt to that. Because realistically, it's going to take a while to do that because the Superbike's a different kettle of fish.
But you've been there before.
I've learned a lot in Moto 2 and I'm hoping that I can apply these to the Superbike.
See, from like a mental perspective as well, to have to, like you say, flying across the world and having, living out of a hotel. I live at hotels most days of the week for work. And I know when I just can't even be asked to go for a run. Like, never mind go and doing a World Championship race. It's a different level, isn't it? So I suppose your mental capacity must have gone through the roof. So you'd be excited to take that back into.
I'm just looking forward to getting in my big red Sprinter van and going up and down the road again, just being normal. Like, got a bit more time at home with my mates, can go out mountain biking, going, just doing normal things.
Have a bit of time.
I say normal things. All my mates are either race British mountain bikes, like downhill, they race motocross, or like road bikes. One of my mates is like 5-time Scottish champion on super bikes and road bikes, Lewis Patterson. So like,
what a man
there was like 5 or 6 of us out yesterday riding motocross, and same the day before. We all just do the same thing. So I say I'll go home and be normal, but it's just going to revolve around bikes. But
but you're with people that make a difference for
I'm
you.
going to have more time at home to just chill out a little bit. And
see the family. Oh mate, it's exciting. We've got a fast, relaxed, excited Rory Skinner.
Happy rider's a fast rider.
Right, that you can't knock that. I tell you what, I'm looking through. Sorry, I'm not being rude. I'm looking through my phone for the Patreon questions, but we've got a cracking one here from Gary Proctor. What was your favourite circuit to ride in Moto 2?
There's so many. I love Jerez. Like, Jerez is one of my favourite circuits. Just like hands down. So Jerez is probably one of my favourite tracks. But then if you go to one of the like new tracks that I rode in the flyaways, I'd probably say it was Motegi was cool, but it was a lot to get your head around in Japan. And I loved the whole Japanese thing was awesome. I had my 22nd birthday was in Tokyo,
that's class.
Whilst we were travelling, and Motegi was a cool track to ride at. That was nice to be. Oh, trailer's rocking.
I tell you what, the neighbours will be thinking something. We're parked outside the Rouse house at the moment, and they'll be getting letters through the door going, look, there's no need for that.
Yeah, I'd say Motegi was probably one of the coolest tracks that we rode. Like, in terms of, if I could go and do a track day somewhere, I'd quite like to go back there and ride.
Is there any tracks that you haven't done that you want to do across the world?
Honestly, I can't remember what I haven't done, because
that's class.
It was like
22-year-old.
It was 20 rounds just like non-stop.
Flat out, yeah.
I feel like March was like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And like, it's 2 months away. Not even 2 months away. It's a month away.
That's terrifying. Yeah.
You know, it's like the whole 2023 year for me just went in a blitz. I went to America on the 10th of January, and I came back on the 20th of February, and then we started testing like 14th of March or something. And then from
it's a much longer season, isn't it, than what like a domestic championship or national.
I was away for 5 weeks once I went testing. We went to Jerez, Portimao for the race, Argentina, Texas, and then back home for a week. And it was like, then you're into your season again, and you got a summer break, and I was injured for the summer break, so it's just like there was no like. I'm still trying to catch up on what day of the week it is and what month it is. Like I don't know what's kind of happening. It's weird.
It's like, you know what, and
then when he had time off from MotoGP, he was coming to BSB.
Well, there we are.
To wind up everyone else.
Don't know what to do myself when there's no bikes involved.
Yeah.
I've got into
There is a resounding like theme in the comments here just about people just congratulating you for the season, really, and obviously just saying how disappointed they are that you're not staying on, which we've obviously covered. One question that's come up a couple of times though is I don't know if we've sort of touched on this properly, but obviously you talk about Hopper being your manager. Is he still your manager? Are you staying with John?
This is obviously a touchy, like some people see this as a touchy subject because people are like, oh, John screwed you over, he did this, he promised this and he promised that, and like John with the American Racing team, it says he's team coordinator, or like I can't remember what his official title is because it's not really his title. John's a rider coach at the American Racing team. He's the one that goes out and track and spots and relays back all the information. So John had no say in what as far as John was away. I was getting having a 2-year deal.
Yes.
How did he take it?
He wasn't happy. He's John's really not happy. I mean, he's been on the pod and John's a real guy. He wears his heart on his sleeve and like he's genuine. And me and John are like, we're just as much mates as we are like on a
professional level,
professional level. But like I was texting John last night, sending him all the videos from motocross and like, just getting to crack with him, just chatting. Like we talk about like sponsors and like sorting out rides and stuff like that. But at the same time, he's like, he's sending me videos of him away at golfing and like sending videos mountain biking. He's sending me videos motocrossing. And it's like we just get on well. And John is the one, he set up most of the Taz deal for me, made sure that everything was right. And in all fairness, if I'd known earlier, potentially could have had another Grand Prix ride in a different team. But I was left so late that everything else was out of there. And John, as I said, John wasn't present when the news was broken to me because the team owner decided to do it without him being there. And
you got literally lured to a car park in Thailand.
Basically, can you come out your room, come see me at reception? Yeah, you're dumped basically.
But John's relationship with that team and being your manager are actually two separate things.
Yes, totally.
And you're staying with him.
Totally. John's looked after me. He's sorting me out, and honestly, I can't thank John enough for what he's done. Yeah. He's stuck by me, and whilst I was having tough times last year, he was like my number one support system. He was there for me just as much as he was a mate as management. So.
I tell you what, right? I'm going to get this name wrong. You're going to have to say that. Travis.
Where are we? Travis McClurg. Yeah, that's right.
There we are, champion. Obviously, the accent barrier. I might have got that wrong and upset one of our patrons there. Any wild Hopkins stories?
I'm trying to think. There's like so much went on through the year. I'm trying to pinpoint what we did do, what we didn't do.
Nothing that you can say.
It's wild all the time with John. Like, there's never really a dull moment. It's like I'm trying to pick out one thing that he did that was particularly nuts. But I went to Portimao and the queue was too big on the way into the circuit, so he just decided to go around the roundabout the wrong way and then drive down the oncoming lane to get into the track. And
shut up, man.
Past police and everything. The police were all waving at him, and he's just like waving at them. It's nuts. He's pretty mental, to be fair. Taking him mountain biking when he came up to mine and never ridden a mountain bike before, and he's like telling me he's going to pre-hop this, get into that compression and hop off this drop and everything. I'm like,
John Hopkins is going to die in the hills of Scotland on a mountain bike.
Yeah, class.
Yeah, I've got a video on my phone. One of my mates was filming it, and he's like, yeah, man, I'm gonna come down there, gonna pump through that, get off this little rut, just pop off there. I'm
like, very good.
Spent a lot of time with him. I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't bother.
That is class.
He's a good guy. Like, John's just wild.
No, it's good because like at the end of the day, we didn't know the full story till you've kindly come down here today, and it's like, it's good that John's got your back. You know what I mean? Because at first, that's how the public perceived it. Like, you've been screwed over by a
John.
BSB legend, a MotoGP legend, and it really isn't the case.
See, this is the thing. Like, I was so silent on social media because I just didn't want to put anything out there when everything was going on.
I think you did the right thing.
But at the same time, I felt really bad because I almost wanted to protect my mate because I could see what was being said about John online, and like obviously it affected him as well. We're all people, and like it's not nice seeing all this shit going up on the social media about how he's done this and he's done that when they don't know the full story.
Yeah.
And to be honest, the full story probably will never come out because legal reasons and this, that, and the other. Like, you know, it was totally out with his control, and he did everything that he could do for me, and yet I can't just go, John Hopkins is this, John Hopkins is that, and he's done this, this, and this for me. I can't exactly make a post about that because then it just creates a whole load of
But the fact that you're staying with him and you continue in the relationship says everything that you need to say, really, doesn't it?
I'm not just being. You are the benchmark on that, and I think people need to look at that more. You know what I mean? You're only 22 and you act like that is a very, very mature and, more importantly, the right thing to do.
Sure stuff.
You haven't just chucked your toys out the pram, and you've done more for your career and his by doing how you both reacted there.
You gotta be professional about it. At the end of the day, like MotoGP is the top level of motorcycle racing. Like World Superbikes is world championship, but MotoGP is the pinnacle.
Yeah.
Like everybody aspires to be to MotoGP. You don't go to get to MotoGP and then go, can't wait to try and move into World Superbikes. Like you get to World Superbikes, you're like, hopefully there's a door that opens into
the
MotoGP.
GPs. Yeah, for sure.
I'm not taking anything away from World Superbikes.
No,
World Superbikes
it's a different thing, right?
It's different, yeah. And everybody aspires to be at the pinnacle. So like you can't just be slagging people off on social media saying this, that, and the other. You got to be professional about what happens. And I've been lucky enough that I've like kind of through my whole life I've had to be quite professional because we've not had the money to just go and do our own thing. So I can't just be
pissing people off,
bad mouthing this and that and the other because my dad's got money and he can pay for this and he can pay for that. It's like you got to think about what you say and how you say it and make 100%. Sure you come across in the right way, and it rubs off in your social media as well. You got to do the same thing. Obviously everybody likes a bit of a bad boy and like creates a bit of a storm, but like it doesn't always go down the best, and it tires out after a while.
Yeah, well, it definitely shows in how you handled that, and like you say, you were pretty quiet on social media about it. So thanks very much for talking about it.
A very valid point there. You know what I mean? Because you could easily go, no, I'm not talking about that, lads. You know what I mean? But you've been very open about it. And
I don't mind talking about it. At the end of the day, it's like it. I did what I did for a reason, and I didn't really have any. I didn't have anything. My mum always said, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. And that was like that's what my view was. I said that to some of the guys that were there, like, you need to put a post up, and I'm like, no, because I don't have anything good to say. It's like, so
it's negative, so I don't need to say that. Anything. Yeah, fair enough.
I'll tell you what, no, but going through like without patrons, this show wouldn't be. I really wouldn't. You wouldn't be sitting here. We wouldn't be sitting here. You know, honestly, it is that crucial. So if you want to sign up to be a patron, please do, because you get to ask questions. But like Tony, like he was talking about, the difference between the chassis, and we've already covered that.
Covered a lot of them.
We naturally go through the questions anyway, but everyone loves a shout out, don't they? So Tony Rolls, you've got Rob Vickerman there, and he's talking about the fact of like the steep learning curve, and people are with you on this, you know what I mean? And everyone is in agreement that it's what you have done is like people just don't think, that'll be a piece of piss from. Far from it. People understand the levels that we're at. We've got a fantastic one from Gary Pratt there. That was the Moto2 question on that side of things. We've got Jess, we've got Aaron Jeffers, Travis, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that one, but we've already answered his question, and we've also got Heather there. And it's just been absolutely brilliant listening to your story on this side of things. But what is the next step for Rory? What are you doing from now to that first test?
Go back out to Spain. I think I fly out on the 19th of February.
Right.
Like, I got my supermoto out there, I got the stalker, my van's out there, as I said, so I just fly out and just basically, it's like gypsy living, just go to the Carrefour, get myself some stuff, stuck it in my...
Just put a note in my phone here, block Rory on Instagram on the 19th of February to avoid any suicidal thoughts.
All the fun you're having out there.
But just basically just training. I'll just fly out there and just enjoy riding bikes and come into the first round just bike fit.
It's mad. The biggest thing, isn't it? A lot of riders in the past have hopped on bikes and they haven't come from a mechanical background, and they've got hurt. And I don't think we have to worry about you on the mechanic side, because your family owns a motorcycle mechanic shop. So bear in mind, if anything falls off your bike, you're going to get some shit.
I know. I'm handy enough at rebuilding BMWs now, so it's mine or someone else's. I'm pretty
switched on with the whole thing.
Pretty fine with that now. So yeah, if you need your bike rebuilt whilst you're in Spain and I'm not busy, then just drop me.
Rory's the man.
Rory is the man. But
wait till you see that labour rate though. Oof.
Oh, it's going to be expensive.
Cash only.
Spoken like a true Scotsman. But no, Rory, needless to say, absolutely great to have you back. You know what I mean? The future's bright. The future is, I was about to say, like an old Orange advert after a phone, but it's we're not going to go down that route. But it's been absolutely fantastic to have you on, and thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And obviously a bit of what do you call it, house cleaning on our side. You know, thank you so much to OMG, Bennetts, JCT. But as always, Josh does our little closing message for Bennetts, because I'm not professional enough to do that. So let's let you roll off the tongue with that one, son. Go on.
Yeah, well, it's quite relevant with, I suppose, you being a former Bennetts athlete, if you like.
Close to home.
Yeah, so you are
close to home.
Close to home, yeah. So the competitions for the Bennetts customers and Bike Social members are now live. So the first two are going to be for rounds 1 and 2 of the BSB Championship. Obviously the first round being over in Spain. So you can sign up to enter those competitions over at bikesocial.co.uk. And then obviously, a big thank you to all the other sponsors as well. Obviously OMG Racing, JCT, Truck and Trailer. A little message from Grace just on some of the merchandise.
The most important message from Grace, because if we don't say it, we'll get slapped about, to be honest with you. So it's simple as that.
Yeah, so a little message on the merchandise. So she's working on a few new products. I think we're going to be restocking some of the snoods that are going to be a little bit.
I can't believe the snoods.
I heard Grace say that the new ones are better than the old ones. Better than before.
I tell you what, you know, when Chrissy first came up with the ideas of doing the snoods, and I just laid into him like, who the wants to buy a snood? Are you for real? Like a snood of all things that we could put out there. They've been the biggest seller, and I'm just like,
handy, yeah.
Oh, mate,
stuff.
I proper laid into him, and I'm just like, even now he's laughing at us. I'm like, you dickhead, you know what I mean? But obviously, Grace has been working hard. She's done a new design. Have you seen the design?
No,
I've seen the design, and they generally are. So it's I'll give Rory a sneak peek on behind the scenes on that one.
I think there's a couple of calendars and stuff left as well. So it's the new stock, a few calendars left. Obviously you can check that out on the website and get in contact with Grace. Also, just a little note to say that we're obviously still always looking for episode sponsors as well. So, and there's still some slots available, and you can, for any inquiries on that, you can email chasintheRacin@outlook.com.
Absolutely fantastic. Right. Well, honestly, yet again, thank you so much for driving down to us. You are on the top 5 in the whole top guests on that side of things.
Top 5 out of 3 that have done it. That's fine for me.
Good man. But no, honestly, hey, good luck for this season. I can't wait to look at your Instagram and be totally jealous like Josh. It's going to be shit.
Oh no, he's blocked from this moment on.
I don't blame you. But no, honestly, thank you so much for coming down, and we'll catch up with you soon, mate.
Pleasure, yeah. Thanks very much.
See you in a bit, lads.
Cheers for having me, guys.